Good evening, everyone. Thank you for being here for this regular meeting of the Temple City Council. It's currently 4 minutes after 5. Please rise as the invocation will be led by Shane Pursley and the pledge by Jana Llewellyn. Mr. Pursley.
Together, Father, we thank you for the day that you have given to us. We are grateful for your blessings. We ask now, God, for your wisdom in this meeting. We pray for those who be involved. We ask God to give them discernment, make the best decisions in the interest of this city and the people that inhabit it. We ask God to bless everybody that's here. Give us a safe passage home. We give you praise for all you do. In Christ's name.
Amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you both very much. We now move on to item 2, which is public comments. Citizens who desire to address the council on any matter may do so, as long as you signed up prior to this meeting. We ask that you hold your comments to no more than 3 minutes. And also we ask that you understand that no discussion or final action will take place. So we have one person who has signed up, Mr. David Barrows. Barrows, if you would go ahead and state your name for the recording.
My name is David Barrows, David Franklin Barrows. I live at 7615 McCulloch Road in Temple. And, the papers that you're getting are basically copies of what I have here. Please forgive the pen and ink corrections. It seems as though the older I get, the less cooperation I get out of my typewriter. In any event, good evening, Mayor Davis, Mr. Pilkington, Ms. Walker, Ms. And other members of the panel. Thank you. I have 2 points that I'd like to have acknowledged. According to the Temple Daily Telegram yesterday, a proposed 100-unit apartment complex on 8 acres is to be built on Hogan Road. Its proximity, only hundreds of feet from the intersections of South Pea Ridge northwest of it and South Pea Ridge east of it, which by the way, this is, I think it's an item ordinance number 6 that you'll be looking at later on. Another multi-unit complex on South Pea Ridge, which is adjacent to the elementary school and within 1.3 miles of the proposed multi-unit complex that you'll be looking at this evening. It's nearing completion. Another multi-unit complex is on Tarver, in between Tarver and Adams, right next to the Lake Belton Middle School. Additionally, there are others proposed that have yet come before the council. Empirical studies by a number of social scientists have found a negative association between overcrowding and mental health, which is acknowledged by the World Health Organization. And I bring that up because of the density of the number of people that will be in the areas that are being developed with multi-unit developments. If the city of Temple is willing to produce evidence showing a study of how this item was considered prior to approval by the Planning and Zoning Commission on November 6th, then my first point is moot. My second point is the effect of traffic at the intersections identified and the road conditions on South Pea Ridge. Now, I do understand that South Pea Ridge is not entirely under the control of the city of Temple and that the county has some responsibility for the maintenance of it on the southern portion of it. Well, traveling South Pea Ridge south of Hogan, the edges of the roadbed are collapsing, causing traffic many times to drive over broken road surfaces. This has increased the possibility of losing control and injury. With the multi-development or multi-residential development that's coming up, more people will be driving on that road, more degradation of road surface will occur. And this is of concern to those of us that live out in that area. Additionally, the poor road surface and the 4-foot drop off on the eastern turn near the intersection of South Pea Ridge and Parks, which recently resulted in minor injuries when a vehicle left the road, is of concern. And again, that's county responsibility there. It should be remembered that loss of life occurred near the intersection of Hogan and Old Waco Road in July of 22. A contributing factor may have been the crumbling road surface. I have yet to see traffic studies to show consideration of the existing increases in future traffic. I encourage the production of such studies and their results produced for residents that are affected. I implore you, our city council, consider the Temple resident and not to overuse the rubber stamp of approval. You owe it to your constituency.
Thank you, Mr. Barrows. This is item 6 on tonight's agenda, and there will be information about both Hogan Road and traffic studies, traffic counts,
Good.
anticipated traffic counts. So
Will this be in the?
stay tuned.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood it. I don't hear as well.
What I was saying was that a couple of those items, Hogan Road
Yes,
and traffic studies,
yes.
will be presented when item 6 is presented tonight.
Okay. Would you know whether that information would be reported in the Temple Telegram?
We could get it to the Telegram. It'll be up to them whether or not to publish it. But I'm sure that we could get in. I've got your email address here. We could send it to you directly. We could send the
Like that.
presentation, and for that matter, anybody else that wants it, more than happy to get it to you. No
Thank
problem.
you very much.
You bet. Thank you, sir. Good to see you. All right, moving on to item 3 is to receive the Temple Economic Development Corporation annual report. Mr. Kennedy.
Mayor, Council, thank you for allowing some time for us to come visit with you this evening. As is customary and part of our contract with the City of Temple, we come to you at the end of our fiscal year and present on and report on our activities of what's going on with respect to economic development and how we're leveraging your investment in economic development for the benefit of the community. I want to start by saying it's always a pleasure to be among friends, partners, true partners that are working together in a collaborative effort to increase economic prosperity. We look forward to giving our presentation here. First, I want to introduce everyone to our team. I like to say we're small but mighty. I represent the leadership there at the Temple Economic Development. Tom Long, who we brought on just this past April, is our vice president, and he's over business development activities. Amanda Carlson handles our director, our marketing and communications, both on the digital side and also our print side. And Jennifer Avery makes sure we're in compliance with our economic development agreements with the various prospects that we've had the good fortune of bringing into the community. And also wanted to give a nod to our Temple EDC Board of Directors. This is not the current updated Board of Directors. If you'll remember, this annual report looks backward, not necessarily forward. So this represents the FY23 Board of Directors. And so we've had a couple of folks roll off. You all have made some appointments here in the last few months. We've been pleased about middle part of this year to bring Councilwoman Walker on board, as well. As you all know, much of our activity in the industrial park represents her district. So I hope she's enjoyed her time on that board so far. But we do have a great cross section and a diverse group of folks representing both industry, government, small business, all represented here. And they really do give us the direction and the policy for staff as we go forward and try to do positive things in the community with respect to economic development. This is more for the community. I think you all understand, but I know there are people online viewing, but we are essentially a nonprofit marketing services group. And so we contract with the City of Temple, also the Temple Health and Bioscience District and the Reinvestment Zone for economic development services and marketing. But really our mission is to create jobs and investment. And when you think about our vision, it's a collection of fancy words here in a small statement, but essentially it's practicing excellence in everything we do. And we want Temple to be associated with excellence as prospects and an opportunity come our way as they consider investment in the country and the state of Texas. Our strategic objectives. I think we reported end of last year that we had just finished a strategic plan review and taking a look and reminding everyone of our strategic objectives. I think it's very important. This is kind of our day-to-day activities point back to our strategic objectives. Product development is very important. As you think about being able to sell the community, we have to have something to sell. The community itself, as you look at downtown, as you look at South Temple, down 31st Street, all the development that's going on there. We just had some clients in town, international clients in town in this past week, and they drove around and saw the infrastructure development and the new investments that were being put in the roads. That speaks very, very well about our community, this council, your leadership, Reinvestment Zone leadership, about preparing for the future. Ray Perryman once said, prepared communities win in economic development. So developing the product, which is all those things we've encompassed, as well as shovel-ready sites. We know we've been working with the City of Temple, the Reinvestment Zone, to make sure we have something there for those prospects where they're seeking to put significant investment in our community. Military attraction and support, Fort Cavazos. Workforce is driving a lot of these economic development concerns and opportunity. As you look around the country, as you look around the state, the fact that we have one of the largest military installations in the free world, just west of us, about 20 minutes, 25 minutes, the fact that you have anywhere from 600 to 1,000 in a given month, soldiers transitioning out, and 30 to 40% want to stay in the area provides a ready workforce. So we want to keep those lines of communication open and make sure that we're identifying those soldiers with skill sets, plugging them with opportunities, and also plugging our employers and making that connection with Fort Cavazos. Internet broadband is a real focus area for us as we go forward. We're all aware of the Meta announcement and the growth of data centers in the state of Texas. We know a lot of infrastructure is being brought down 35 to support all of the growth that's happening in the Texas Triangle. We want to make sure we know that communities, as they look forward, remote work is a big part of the consideration as you consider quality of place and opportunities for folks to live in a community. They're looking at the opportunity to work remotely in their homes. They're looking at communication, AI, all those things are very important. So we want to play our role in making sure that we understand where that's headed, the infrastructure build out with respect to that, and partnering with companies like Meta and others to make sure that we're at the table to capture those opportunities to bone up that infrastructure in our area. Workforce development, we already kind of touched. Life science is a real growth area. We're currently working 3 life sciences projects right now. As we know, we have Baylor Scott and White here. We have the VA hospital, which represent a significant employment base. We really see opportunity to build that out, so we have our eye on the ball there. And of course, we'll talk about this as we talk about our investments, business retention and expansion, supporting the local businesses that are here, helping to encourage them grow with respect to the primary industries. The International Economic Development Council reports that in any given year, 60 to 70% of jobs and investment are created by businesses that are already located in your community. So while we get very excited about bringing a new company in on a greenfield site to build something new, and the revenues and the new jobs that come from that, a lot of our local industry are looking for opportunities to grow. So we want to make sure that we're there, they have the resources, and that we're supporting them in those growth opportunities. And again, we'll talk about that as we get into our last year's fiscal report. Increasing the tax base. Ultimately, our contract, the summation of our contract means, hey, Temple EDC, we want you to really provide leadership with respect to attracting new jobs and new investment, growing those opportunities in our community. I think we've done a pretty good job in it with a collaborative effort with the City of Temple and the Reinvestment Zone. You see the numbers here, 20% of increase in taxable valuation. Yes, some of that is values have increased as this has become a hot market, but a lot of that also are new investments coming into the area, 84% in the Reinvestment Zone. We all here at the council know how important that Reinvestment Zone is. When we look about the renaissance that has been downtown just in the last 10 years, when we look at our industrial park, when we look at the hike and bike trails and the roadways, a lot of that is supported by our Reinvestment Zone. So the fact that we are driving investments within that zone that help increase that tax base there is very important. And then you see the sales tax revenue there. When you look inside the numbers, that 12% increase in sales tax revenue, a lot of that sales tax is coming from construction activities, whether it be residential, whether it be new schools that are being built, whether it be new industry that's coming in and creating those jobs, construction jobs in our area. Facilitating job growth, you can see the numbers there with respect to our growth in the number of jobs. You know, an interesting factoid here, if you will, Temple, right around 90,000 in population, represents about 18% or so of our metropolitan statistical area population. We're about 496,000, 496,000 in our metro area, and Temple represents about 90,000+ of that, about 18%. But when you look at the job growth over the last 5 years, the city of Temple represents 40% of the new jobs created in our whole MSA, even though we represent 18% of the population. A huge part of that is the product development we've talked about. A huge part of that is the collaboration between the city of Temple, the EDC, the chamber, the reinvestment zone to develop product, go out and sell it, and make sure that we're creating opportunities for our citizens and folks who wish to be citizens here in Temple and Central Texas. Average wage percentage increase. This is something that we've really had our eye on the ball on. I know Ms. Myers and you, Mr. Mayor, and Councilwoman Walker have all been involved in that conversation at the board level. Yes, there have been increase in wages just because of inflationary pressures. It's harder to find workers, and so employers are having to pay a little bit more. But we've also, as we evaluated the prospects that we're bringing in, as we look at developing a rifle approach as opposed to a shotgun approach to our economic development marketing efforts, we're targeting sectors that hopefully bring an above average county wage to our area as well. Grow, grow, grow. You see the population there. We already kind of touched on it. 93,000 is about where we are. I know for a lot of members and leaders in our community, you know, as you think just 10 years ago, but certainly 20 years ago, to think that Temple would be approaching 100,000 in population, that would have been a pipe dream for some folks as you think 20 years ago. But we are nearing that number. Over the last 5 years, we've added anywhere from 2,500 to 4,000 in population in any given year over the last 5 years. And so you can see we're just a couple of years out from that 100,000 population number. And what we've seen in economic development, once you get past 100,000, once you get to 110, certainly into 120, you really have hit a critical mass for activity and growth in your community. So we're excited about what's to come there. As we think about marketing our region, you know, our approach is not to sit and wait for the phone to ring. We have a very strategic plan and marketing effort and economic development strategy that we're employing every year. And you can see we have been quite busy and on the road. And what I want you all to see out of our marketing activities here listed, they represent a diverse market opportunity. So everything from fabrication technologies to consultants. These consultants, site selection consultants, get together various places around the country. We receive invitations to those networking events and marketing opportunities to get our community in front of those folks. These consultants oftentimes represent a significant amount of investment and job creation opportunities that are considering the globe, the U.S. and the state of Texas. So we want to be in front of them. You see bioscience or the bio conference, look at life sciences companies as well as retail. So you see a diverse mix here of industry, and we're trying to get in front of as many of those opportunities as possible. Investment attraction, you can see on a marketing side, you know, our marketing efforts aren't only business to business in person, but they also incorporate or encompass a digital effort. And so we really have two brands on our digital effort that we're pushing: our investment attraction side, which is really focused towards the creation of those jobs and investment, but also our talent attraction. With respect to our investment attraction, you can see some of the numbers with respect to our social media and our website visits over the last year and our engagement rate. And I do have a small sample, a short video of some of the digital efforts and the videos we're putting together on our investment attraction side. So just an example of some of the video production that we're doing out of our small office there as well to help increase an awareness about what's going on here in Temple, Texas. Talent attraction, that's an effort. Again, we know that workforce is the new currency of economic development, with it being so hard to find the skill sets around the country for a lot of these industries. If we're able to get talent interested in moving here, if we're able to demonstrate to some of these businesses that we're a partner with them in helping try to identify that talent and attract them here, that is always a helpful thing to them. So as we look at our community successes, $92+ billion of capital investments that we helped support over this past fiscal year that brought 74 new jobs to the area. Niagara was what significant part of that investment. You all may be noticing all of the work that's being done behind Buc-ee's along I-35 there. The big industrial facilities are going up. Two of those buildings are on a speculative basis. The investment market, private investment market, is putting their chips in the middle of the table with respect to Temple, and they're building a 240,000 square foot facility and a 613,000 square foot industrial facility. But there's a 700,000 square foot facility that is owned and just received their TCO. Thank you, City of Temple, Brennan, your staff, last week for Niagara's warehouse and distribution facility. Many of you know that their main campus is located there along Moores Mill Road and Windland Road there at the corner. They have 730,000 square feet there of manufacturing and production space. But they are continuing to look at new investment opportunities. And as they look at bringing more investment inside of that box for manufacturing lines, they need to move some of that inventory out. And so that 700,000 square foot investment on $50 million rather, roughly approximation of investment there, is to accommodate bringing more manufacturing and more job creation here into that core site. So you think in total over 1.4 million square feet. And to think in 2019, they started with a little project of 450,000 square feet and $90 million. They're well above $300 million in this community right now. And that is a really, really significant win for all of us. Wilson Art, we helped support move forward and achieve a Texas Enterprise Zone grant that brought $10 million of capital investment in their manufacturing facility and create 10 new jobs. And McLean Company as well, $12.7 million of capital investment in 10 new jobs, also assisting them with the Texas Enterprise Zone application and award there from the state of Texas. StarCore Sheets, this is a fun project, and we don't talk about this often enough probably, but all of the many number of projects that have come forward into our industrial park in our community that are employing people, that are paying taxes, they continue to grow and grow at a significant clip. When StarCore first came into the community around 2016, they announced a $15 million investment and about 30 jobs. Well, now they're finishing up an expansion that brings $30 billion of capital investment and 40 new jobs in that facility. So we're very proud about what's going on there in our industrial park. And then finally, as we close out here, the future looks really bright for our community, for Central Texas. There is not, I shared this with another group that came in, was looking at an investment. There is not a hotter corridor in the nation, maybe the world, than the 35 corridor between San Antonio and Dallas-Fort Worth. And that's represented by the 104 projects that we worked this past year. For context sake, 2 fiscal years ago, we had 87 projects that were still a significant number, but 104 certainly eclipses that by a good amount. And so we're really, really pleased, really, really excited, really, really optimistic about the future, what the future holds. As you look at that pie chart, you see a diversity represented there from those projects. Many of those projects come from the state of Texas. Some of them come from those business-to-business relationships and networking events that we go to as they come to learn about how Temple can help support their clients' growth in the U.S. With that, I'll close out my presentation and stand by for any questions that Mayor, you, or the council might have.
Very good. Council, anything for Mr. Candidate? Any comments?
Thank you for your hard work.
You know, I mean, obviously the TEDC is the marketing, the corporate marketing arm for the city of Temple. And I think, you know, so many times citizens don't necessarily realize that whenever a project comes in, even when there are tax abatements, right, it still adds to tax dollars that are here, right? But but before they came, they were that piece of land was maybe probably drawing in $0. And then when they come here, it ends up creating some more tax base, and those folks are shopping. The new jobs created, people are shopping at different places, and buying homes and things like that. So the corporate development is a way to infuse fairly quick and large tax dollars into the city. And what that does ultimately is that ends up holding down the tax rate for our homes, right? Everywhere that we live. So the importance of good, strong economic development that, as you said, is bringing in jobs that are always above the county average, right? Nothing gets incentivized if it's not an exceptional project. So the work that you guys do over there, with 4 people is amazing. And the impact that you guys have across town, that every one of us end up benefiting from, it's amazing and really appreciated.
Thank you, Mayor. And if I may add to that statement a little bit, and you heard me talk about collaboration quite a bit. And you were part of a meeting, Ms. Myers was part of a meeting where we had a significant client in here about a week ago with their leadership from an international origin. And it's one thing for the EDC staff to be in front of those business opportunities, talking about what a great place Temple is and how we want your investment here. They expect that out of us as we're a marketing organization. But the warmth experienced here, the reception experienced here over and over again, we recognize that we have the good fortune, and you've entrusted in us to roll out the red carpet, if you will, and roll out open the door for those companies looking to come here. But as they come into the house, they have to be received warmly by folks like yourself, Ms. Myers, her staff, as that customer support is there. And I cannot speak enough, and I can't speak highly enough of all those department heads, the staff members, Bryn, your team, who worked so hard to bring those projects to fruition, to really bring it home. That's the collaborative effort I want to make sure that the community knows is taking place here.
And not every community has that.
No, not at all.
So very good. Council, anything? Everybody good?
Thank you.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Candidate. Keep up the good work. All right, moving on to item number 4 is the consent agenda. All items listed under this section are to be considered routine by the city council and may be enacted in one motion. If discussion is desired by any council member, then an item can be pulled off the consent agenda for special consideration. Council during workshop, unless something has changed, my understanding that we do not desire to pull anything off for special consideration tonight. Is that still the case? All right, very good. Then, council, I will entertain a motion on items 4A through 4Y.
Here, I'll make a motion to approve items, the consent agenda items 4A through 4Y.
Second it.
We have a motion by Councilmember Long. We have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. Council, please cast your vote. Four A through 4Y passes with 5 votes to 0. Moving on to item 5 is the regular agenda. Item 5 is the first reading and a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing a site development plan and rezoning from ag to planned development single-family dwelling 3 for a mixed-use residential development to include detached and attached single-family, 2-family duplex, and multifamily use on the southern 116.898 plus or minus acres of property addressed as 2001 East Avenue H in the city of Temple, Bell County, Texas, with the appraisal district parcel ID being 119589. Mr. Chandler.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. And so the applicant, Turley Associates, are here and the developer as well. And this proposed development is Crestview Farms. And so just to orient you to the site, the 116 acres in East Temple, south of Avenue H, and close to Loop 363, and actually just to the west of the Dozier wastewater plant. And on the left, this is just a concept of what that could look like, the mix of types of residential dwellings, including single family, duplexes, multifamily. On the right is the zoning map. And so you can see the large green area zoned agriculture currently, but you have a mix of other residential zonings to the west, and then you have industrial to the east. And so this concept has been in the works for a while. It was actually tabled in 2022 to revisit and work more closely with the applicant. As I mentioned, the proposal includes single-family homes, but also duplexes and multifamily, and would be subject to the following percentages: a minimum of 60% for the single-family 3, traditional detached single-family, a maximum of 5% for single-family attached 3, townhomes, duplexes or 2F at a maximum of 15%, and then the multifamily, a max of 20%. And so on the right, you can see the multifamily would essentially be a buffer between single-family development and the industrial uses to the east. And so the multifamily 2 would be limited to that portion and would allow up to 4 stories and 20 dwelling units per acre. And so among these planned development conditions would include a reduced corner yard setback from 15 feet to 10 feet, provide a little bit more flexibility. And this is for the 2F or duplex section. Also limiting the multifamily to a height of 2 stories within 75 feet of single family lots. Also 4 street stub outs on the west side connecting to existing streets within that single family neighborhood. And then a north-south collector, you can see that on the screen as a divider between the yellow and the brown, the multifamily and single family and 2 family. An extension of Avenue N, and to be consistent with other developments that that you all have approved to the north and to the east, which also include sections of improved Avenue N, 66 feet of right-of-way, 10-foot shared use path on the south side for hike and bike traffic, and then street trees on both sides of the street. And then a north-south collector, which once again, you can see that on the screen, would terminate into Avenue N, but also extend all the way up to Avenue H. And that would have 4-foot sidewalks on both sides of the street or a shared use path, which to be determined at the plat stage. And then lastly, on this slide, no residential driveways along the collectors. And so this would be a way to implement policies recommended within our comprehensive plan. And so development standards, top left, bottom left, or traffic generation from the various uses per the Institute of Transportation Engineers, the latest manual, and their land use traffic generation. And so this project at build out would generate an estimated 12,000 trips per day. And that, of course, is to and from. That's a trip is out and in. Those are 2 trips to go to work and come back. However, of course, the loop eventually would be connected to Avenue H, the stub outs that we talked about. So there are a variety of different connections and options for future residents to take. Looking at the comprehensive plan, a portion of it is identified as corridor mixed use. And the rest of it is residential and neighborhood services. And so especially in connection with the other developments to the north and to the east, properties that were previously owned by this developer, it meets all of those requirements. Crestview Neighborhood Plan, which envisions a mix of different housing types, and neighborhood commercial, which the development to the north would include that neighborhood commercial. Also development to the east would include that, but in the middle of this property, residential is most appropriate. And those housing types would be characterized with quite a few detached garages, predominantly parking to the side and rear. And this development proposes, once again, not to have driveways along the collectors, but also have alleys at key locations as well, to comply and be consistent with the neighborhood plan. Sidewalks, street trees along the collectors. Once again, no driveways on those collectors. And then also an option for accessory dwelling units. So a mother-in-law suite, a granny flat, garage apartment, which is something that has been highlighted in a lot of our neighborhood plans. There would be an option for those on the larger lots within this development. In terms of consistency with the thoroughfare plan, Avenue N and the north-south collector are future neighborhood collectors. Avenue K is an existing neighborhood collector. In terms of trails, there's a proposed neighborhood connector per the Trails Master Plan along Avenue N. A 4 to 5 foot sidewalk on one side of a collector is required per our Unified Development Code. However, they are proposing to comply with our comprehensive plan and the recommendations of having sidewalks on both sides of the street, or where it makes sense to have a wide shared use path, once again, for hike and bike traffic. In terms of compliance with the mobility master plan, bicycle and pedestrian connections are needed to the west for school access and to the north for Wilson Park. The plan development conditions include that connectivity. And so looking at the utilities, City of Temple water and sewer are both available. The sewer lines will be replaced and some realigned as part of the Knob Creek Sewer Improvement Project. Phase 1 is underway. Replacing and realigning the 24-inch line extending down from Avenue N. And then phase 3 will replace 3 lines extending from Avenue H. And that is funding budgeted for the current fiscal year. Also, this project is within the Temple Independent School District. And just some photos. So starting on the left, you can see that's stub out at Avenue G. And then you have an adjacent property to the west. So you can see the character of the adjacent neighborhood, but also those various stub outs that would be extended, providing additional connectivity. And then more just to the west, and a image of the site from Avenue H, adjacent property to the west along Avenue K, and along Mardine. So just showing all the different stub outs, and then property to the east, including the Dozier wastewater plant, and then just looking to the east, farmland. And so public newspaper notice was printed on October 26th. 36 property notices were sent to neighbors within 200 feet. And so we have received 3 responses in favor and 1 response in opposition, and you can see where they're located. Our development review committee reviewed this the original concept in December of last year, but most recently in October, it was October 23rd. So staff and Planning and Zoning Commission at their November 6th meeting, both recommend approval of the rezoning, subject to the following conditions. And P and Z, it was a vote of 5-1. So I'm not going to go through all of this. There's a lot on the screen. We've got 14 conditions, but everything from the use allocations that we had mentioned to the reduced 15-foot corner side yard setback for 2F, the MF2 located in the top northeast corner of the project, that substantial compliance would enable this to move forward without having to come back to P&Z and City Council. I mentioned the neighborhood, the north-south collector and Avenue N, the no residential driveways, the street trees. Number 9, that the city may participate to upsize certain elements associated with the collector streets to make those better overall amenities. Also allowing 26-foot wide public streets, landscaping per the UDC, including trees in each lot, each residential lot, rear yard setbacks to prevent where alleys are located, rear yard setbacks far enough to prevent parking within the alley or hanging over into the right of way. Also, future plats must include connections to the existing stub outs like we discussed, and then substantial compliance with the Crestview District Neighborhood Plan, including the bicycle and pedestrian connections. That's all that I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions. And once again, the development team is here as well.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chandler. Council, any questions for Mr. Chandler? Nope. Item 5 is subject to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter may do so. We ask you step to the podium and state your name for the record, or raise your hand on the platform. Anybody? The one on the platform? Very good. Then I will close the public hearing. And council, if there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion.
I move to approve item 5 with the conditions.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Grant. We have a second by Councilmember Pilkington. Council, please cast your vote. Item 5 passes 5 votes to 0. Moving on to item 6 is the first reading in a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance amending the PD ordinance 2004-3983 to allow reduced corner setback from 15 feet to 5 feet and to allow for a reduction of the required separation distance between the principal building and the detached carports from 10 feet to 7 feet for a 100-unit apartment complex, and for the site plan approval for 7.9 plus or minus acres located on the south side of Hogan Road, approximately 300 feet east of its intersection with South P Ridge Road, addressed as 7955 Hogan Road. Mr. Chandler.
All right, thank you, Mayor. And so looking at the vicinity map, you can see the 7.9 acres described in the item description at South P Ridge and Hogan Road. And you can see that to the south is Southern Draw neighborhood, and then to the north across Hogan Road is the Hills of Westwood single-family neighborhood. And so it's important to point out that this is not a rezoning. This is an amendment to a 2004 plan development Office 2 zoning ordinance. And the Office 2 allows apartments, actually allows them up to 4 stories. What they're proposing is a combination of 2-story and 3 stories in a townhome concept, but all in a single lot. As was mentioned, it's a 100-unit apartment complex. The original 2004 ordinance allows up to 15 units per acre, which would allow for 118. And so the developer requests approval of the site plan. But the reason you all are seeing the site plan and that P and Z saw it is because there are two exceptions that I want to go over in a little bit of detail. Also, it's important to note that this is within the Belton ISD. They have been notified, but we have not received a response. So the two exceptions, exception one is street corner setback, reduced from 15 feet to 5 feet just in one location. We'll show you where that is in just a moment, but it's adjacent to old P Ridge right-of-way. It's not an existing street. It's just existing right-of-way that is not likely to ever be built as a road. And so technically that is a street that would trigger a 15-foot side setback. They're requesting 5 just on one particular building. There's also an existing 18-inch water line within that right-of-way. Exception 2 is building separation between the proposed carports and the residential principal buildings. Our code for residential requires a 10-foot separation. This is actually something that we're evaluating with Unified Development Code amendments, potentially decreasing that to match building code, to match fire code, because those would allow a 5-foot separation. So they're asking for 7 feet between the primary residential buildings and the carports. And we'll show you it's not everywhere, but just in certain locations. Keep in mind that if they attach the carports to the buildings, they could do that by right. But I think we all agree that that would not be an optimal design. It would be a lot of less green between the buildings. Also, the Development Review Committee reviewed the request on October 23rd. And during that review, the fire department wanted to ensure that table R302.1 of the residential building code related to exterior walls, that's included, and it is, which you'll see with the conditions. No other issues were identified. And so looking at the site, you can see this is looking to the south, I believe. So looking towards the Southern Draw neighborhood. And once again, looking to the south and to the north. So Hogan Road, of course, is to the north. And then at the left photo, you can see homes from the hills of Westwood. And also looking to the west, you can see what some of the other residential looks like, and drainage within the Hogpen Creek drainage area, and just photos looking to the east as well. All right, so here is the site plan, and what you can see, in addition to the 100 units, you can also see that they're color coded for the number of stories, A being 2-story, B also 2-story, and C as well, but D, those are the 3 stories. And so you can see that the 3 stories are located along the 26-foot drives to in order to accommodate a ladder truck, which we discussed during the workshop is needed for 3-story buildings. Also, in terms of, here's the landscape plan that they provided. The code would require a minimum 5% landscaping. The applicant is proposing 10 to 20%. And so we're going to recommend a condition of a minimum of 10%. What you can also see on here in terms of the red, those are future trail connections, or trail connections, I should say, to a future trail on the city's trails master plan. A spine trail along the east side of Hogpen Creek is proposed that would ultimately connect from Poison Oak up to West Adams. And something else I wanted to point out that we discussed with the applicant, the possibility of having them construct their portion of that trail. And so that could be the first section of the Hog Pen Creek Public Trail. Building elevations, and so top right are the 3-story elevations, 2-story in the bottom right. Bottom left, you can see that just the distance of, if approved, what that 7-foot distance would look like between the carports and the main buildings. This is just a concept, but what is shown in here is hardy board or fiber cement board siding. Also, just to go in a little more detail on what the exception 1, the corner setback, where that's located. So you can see it's just that corner of, I'm not sure which building number that is, but adjacent to Old Pea Ridge and close to Hog Pen Creek. So not along a roadway, not near existing residential. And then in terms of the 7-foot minimum reduced building separation, this exhibit shows in red where they would need less than the 10 feet that is required by code. So it's not everywhere. And it varies, actually 7 foot 6 inches to 16 feet in terms of the separation on their site plan. So looking at the thoroughfare plan and the trails map, Hogan Road and South Pea Ridge are both community collectors on the thoroughfare plan per our comprehensive plan. And also what you can see here, that yellow alignment, the subject property, of course, is circled, but the yellow alignment shows a transportation capital improvement program project that was approved, the contract of which was approved by you all, not last month, that was September. And so this is a 2-year project to widen that remaining section of Hogan Road, and also the remaining section of Pea Ridge that Mr. Barrows brought up earlier. So great comment, and we have the plans to address that.
And the construction of Hogan will coincide with construction of the apartment complex, and
Yes, sir.
with a very close end date for both.
Yes, sir.
Right.
That is my understanding, and we can hear from the development team, but yes, the timing should work out very well.
And that'll be 3 lanes wide, right, with a continuous
Yes,
turn
sir.
lane.
You have a great memory, and here it is. So yes, this will be the section right in front of the project. And so you can see it's 3 lanes, so 2 travel lanes, a continuous turn lane. Other sections will have medians where it makes sense. We'll also have 2 6-foot sidewalks on both sides. So this is exactly what is to be built. And also looking at trip generation, just to answer some of Mr. Barrow's well-taken comments. So according to 2021 traffic counts, which you can see a diagram on the right, the intersection of Hogan and that section that has already been improved at Old Waco Road, improved around 2021. Traffic counts around that time, after construction was completed, 1,719. And once again, these are daily trips. And so that is up to to your destination and back. That is 2 separate trips. And then also at Hogan and Pea Ridge, daily traffic counts of 2,074. So keep in mind where I'm going with this is just to have a basic, it's not a traffic impact analysis, but it's a basic analysis to look at capacity of the roadway, trips that are already using that area, and what this project should generate. So 100 low rise multifamily units would generate an estimated 674 trips up and back. And so you add that to 2,000 essentially, and it still will be well below the capacity for a collector per our comprehensive plan, the low end being 4,000, high end being 15,000. And also just screenshot from the comprehensive plan, the table that you all probably know, but looking at that in community collector in terms of typical width, speed limits, and then, but most importantly, traffic volumes at the bottom. Also, want to just point out that the city has a number of road projects either under construction or will be under construction within the next year or so in West Temple. And so, I'm not going to go through all of those, but Poison Oak is certainly one of those in terms of recent projects that have commenced. And number 8 is the Hogan and South Pea Ridge project that we've talked about. That once again, it just shows a September start and a 23-month duration. But I think it's also important to see that that project would also connect to Poison Oak. The Hogan Road improvements already that connect to the outer loop in that phase, which is about to begin. So a lot of public investment is going into this area to try to not only catch up, but also get out in front of development needs. And so this is the takeaway on this slide is just to show you that the Office 2 zoning does allow apartments. And on the right, what the current ordinance allows, the 15 dwelling units per acre, and the number of stories that are allowed, and that's up to 4 stories. So 27 notices were sent out to property owners within 200 feet. 0 were returned in agreement. 7 returned in disagreement within that 200-foot buffer that you see up on the screen. We did receive 5 emails outside the buffer area. Just want to make sure that that's known, even though that's not calculated as part of the code to determine if a supermajority is triggered by city council of the vote. We have heard from those folks, and their comments were considered by P&Z and are in your packet. And newspaper printed notice on October 26th. And so this is the slide I want to spend a little bit more time on. These are the disapproval responses within that 200-foot buffer area that do go towards a percentage calculation, which 20% of that area, if the red represent 20% or more of that 200-foot area, it would require 4/5 vote at city council. But the 7 shown there is calculated at 7.18%. So staff recommends approval of amending ordinance 2004-3983, subject to the following conditions: substantial compliance with the site plan, landscape plan, and elevations, minimum of 10% landscaping, compliance with the residential code table that I referenced before by recommendation of the fire marshal, that all the other conditions of the 2004 ordinance would apply, that the director of planning and development would have the authority to make minor approvals to minor changes on the site plan, landscape plan, and elevations. And then that significant changes, of course, would come back to planning and zoning and city council. And so Planning and Zoning Commission had 2 additional recommendations. So buildings 11 and 17, which are a little bit difficult to see. Okay, there you go. So bottom right-hand corner, they are the buildings. Those are 3-story buildings on the site plan. Even though they're separated by the old South Pea Ridge right-of-way, there still were concerns from neighbors about having 3 stories too close to their backyards. P and Z recommended limiting those to 2 stories. And then the other condition is to allow for those 3 stories somewhere else on the site, further away from existing residential. And so my last kind of summary slide here, I think it's important to point out that according to the current plan development office 2 zoning, they could have 4 stories, whereas what's proposed is 2 and 3 stories. Units of 118 versus 100 of what's proposed. 5% landscaping would be required. They're proposing a minimum of 10%, but their landscape plan shows a range of 10 to 20%. The other 5 conditions recommended by staff, in addition to landscaping, and the 2 Planning and Zoning Commission recommendations, implementation of those is allowed by having this PD amendment and site plan conversation, whereas that conversation in a public forum would not be implementable with the base zoning. It's their request allowing this public hearing allows the conditions. Trail connections, the 2 that they're proposing would not be required by code. But of course, then the other 2, the building separation, yes, reduction from 10 feet to 7 feet, and corner side setback at that one location from 15 to 5. So that's really the trade-off that you're looking at, potentially exchanging those 2 exceptions for the other elements in that table.
But had the developer not requested those 2 exceptions, would this case have come to council at all since the zoning was already in place?
Probably not. I mean, I think you could make an argument that the site plan that was already tied to the 2004 ordinance, which identified that location as medical office, but that sufficed for the requirements in the ordinance and the requirements at that time. So a change of that site plan per that ordinance would not have triggered a return to P and Z and council. It was those 2 exceptions that allowed for consideration of the entire site plan.
So if you would go back to that chart, go just one slide back. So had the 2 green exceptions at the bottom, the separation and the setback, not been needed, then they could have built 4 stories, 5% landscaping, 118 units. They could have done everything in red in the left-hand column by right.
Correct.
They simply just could have done it without the opportunity for the council to discuss or for the neighborhood to get involved.
That's right. Just submit for permit.
Okay. Very good. Thank you. So, council, any questions for Mr. Chandler before we move to the public hearing?
Not really for
Add
Mr.
to that
Chandler.
one point. Oh, excuse me. Go ahead.
You go.
No, you go.
They're so polite.
I know.
Just to go.
Yeah. I'm pleased to see that the planning and zoning did take into account the 3 stories near the subdivisions around it and move those back farther. I think that's important. We had another one similar to that, maybe been about 6 months ago or something, but at 3 stories next to, that subdivision it's too close, it's too high. So I was pleased to see that.
And I received an email about that specifically.
Mhm.
About, the apartment dwellers being able to look into the
Yeah, it's
backyards
just-
and,
mhm.
so I appreciate that consideration.
Exactly the same thing.
Okay.
Just underlining that because that's a big plus.
Mhm.
Anything else? All right, item 6 is subject to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter may do so. Okay, okay. You may. So who all, can I see a quick show of hands? I know we've got 1, 2, 3. All right. So to kind of move things along a little bit, whenever we have a larger crowd, I ask that at least one of you, right? We have a speaker at bat, we have the next person on deck. So please keep somebody on deck at all times if you don't mind. And we have one on the platform. Okay, so we'll go with Mr. Barrows first, then we'll do the platform. And then if we can get somebody on deck, then we will go like that. We obviously, as a city council, as your representatives to the city, we want to hear what everyone has to say. And we're obviously glad to do that. That's what we're here for. But if you find that if you guys haven't planned what you're going to say and you hear the person in front of you say basically what you're like these two ladies just did, right? Then you can cede your time, or if you want to, in the interest of everyone's time, you can say, "Oh, he had my same comment," and not speak, or you can get up there and say verbatim what the person in front of you said. So your choice. We want to hear from everybody, but if it's repeating and you're comfortable sitting down, then do that. If not, we're happy to listen. Mr. Barrows.
Again, I'd like to thank the gentleman who presented that information up on the screen. It was very useful. I had one question, and that was, did I understand you correctly when you said that both sides of the street on Hogan will have sidewalks?
Yes.
I'd like to also ask if that will be extended around the corner on the south side and, I'm sorry, on the west side and the east side of South Pea Ridge, which is also a collector street.
Yes, sir. That project includes improvements of that section of Pea Ridge all the way to.
That's good. The reason I ask is we have a lot of people that walk that area. It's a nice place to walk. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So we'll go to the virtual platform now. You're fine there. Yeah, give us just, we have somebody online.
Hello.
Yes.
All right. Thank you
Can
guys
hear
for
you.
all of this. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So just from my understanding, can you guys still hear me?
Yes, ma'am. And I'm sorry. Would you please state your name for the record?
Shannon Evans.
Okay, very good.
So I've just looked, from my understanding, this was all decided in 2004 for a planned medical office. That's why this property was zoned as the O2, correct?
Not technically. The zoning that was put in place would allow for both medical office if some, physician decided to want to locate their office there, or for a project just like this. It wasn't specific to medical offices. It included multifamily.
Okay, because I was just curious, because under the Unified Development Code, section 3.4.7, the expiration says if no development has occurred on a planned development zone track or lot within 2 years of the date of approval, the Planning and Zoning Committee and City Council may require a new public hearing to evaluate the appropriateness of the previously authorized planned development approval. And I was just curious if that process had taken place since the project that zoning was, or that zoning was designated for, expired multiple years ago.
Okay.
Also,
Yes, ma'am.
sorry, I was also looking at the Unified Development Code, and section 3.4.5 said that the development, who approves these developments? Do you guys get to approve these to ensure that they follow these codes, or am I just completely off base? Because under section
The Unified Development Code addresses all the requirements. And then as a development, as they present their plans and their site plan, it's up to city staff and inspectors that actually go out to the site to assure that they are developing in the way that they agreed upon.
Okay, so then in section 3.4.5, it says in part C that the development is in harmony with the character, use, and design of the surrounding area. And I don't believe that the residents of the surrounding area would agree that what has been proposed and what the area is zoned for is in harmony with that. So additionally, in 3.4.2, It says in approving of a planned development, the city council may require additional standards deemed necessary to create a reasonable transition to and protection of adjacent property and public areas, including but not limited to access and circulation, sign, parking, building design, location, and height, amongst other things. I think that that's kind of what's really, I don't want to speak for all the neighbors in the area, but it does seem that the height and the fact that so many units going in there are going to affect the character of the neighborhoods. And that's all I have.
Okay,
I guess,
thank you.
yeah, just curious if something, that was zoned in 2004. And then that, didn't work out. Like, why was there not a city council meeting about that? Like getting it possibly rezoned or.
Well, the zoning follows, the change in zoning remains on the land until such time it's determined that it needs to be reconsidered for rezoning. Mr. Chandler.
And ma'am, I just wanted to clarify, just checked with our legal counsel for development, who clarified that section, the expiration is of the plan development, which is essentially the site plan, but not expiration of the zoning. So the site plan, this process is addressing that public hearing for the site plan. Zoning does not expire. Office 2, and unless the property owner decides to change it to single family, multifamily, something other than Office 2, that runs with the land in perpetuity, and Office 2 does allow the multifamily.
Do you think that we should then possibly amend that to consider that the reason why that land was zoned that way was because of the office building? I'm sure that this is probably an issue in other areas around Temple as well.
The office, as I
Just
said
the
earlier,
the zoning expiring, I'm sorry. Like,
no, the zoning does not expire. The zoning stays with the land until a new owner or the current owner would come along and ask for rezoning. The owner of this property has not asked for rezoning. So the zoning from 2004 remains in place.
so somebody can just put in for zoning and get it approved for one thing and then just use it for however they want, and that's just how it is. There's no recourse.
The office, the current zoning allows for office or multifamily. It allows for both, not or. And this owner has decided that they would like to put in multifamily.
Okay, thank you.
Which is again, as we spoke about earlier, it's allowed by right. Which means that there's no extra zoning change required. The current zoning complies with, or I guess this project complies with current zoning on that piece of property.
That was zoned in 2004, nearly 20 years ago.
It stays with the land
Okay, thank
until
you so much.
such time as someone comes along, a new owner or the current owner decides that they want to have it rezoned. And this owner has not decided to rezone it. Therefore, and again, this project is in compliance with current zoning. Therefore, there was no further action required. And as we said earlier at the end of the presentation, this owner, except for those 2 exceptions that were requested by the owner, this whole project could have more than likely moved along without ever coming to this point because it's allowed by right. So where the owner or actually where the city has negotiated with the owner on those 2 sets of buildings, 11 and 17, that could look over into people's backyards, especially if it was a 3 or a 4-story building, the owner has allowed for, again, through negotiation with the city, to only have a 2-story building there. And from an investment purpose, this would be a more profitable project Had it been had they done 4 stories throughout, which is something that they could have done. And out of consideration for the neighborhood, they have limited to 3 and 2 sets of buildings, only 2 stories tall. And in effect, that ends up costing the developer money because they've sunk the cost in the land and they're voluntarily choosing not to put as many units on it as they could. Is that it? May we move on to the next person, or do you have any other comments?
No, that's all for me. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Garrett Smith, a member of local community. I live in Hills of Westwood, as well as chairman of the Libertarian Party of Bell County. Just a few things I wanted to address is transparency. And we think back to 2004. Obviously, this area didn't look like it does now. George Bush had been in office 3.5 years. We hadn't even been through the first housing crisis, much less a second one. Something that was approved then in no way applies to so much of what goes on around it now. Earlier, we saw a presentation on development and how it's important to bring in more people who are paying property taxes, tax dollars, spending tax money. The property values could go down if enough people don't want to buy houses that have 2 stories looking down on their backyards, 3 stories. You mentioned they had emails about the 2 stories looking into the yards. And there's no way that we could know that new citizens of Temple are going to be solely the occupants of this new development. Could just be people moving across town, around town. So instead of adding tax dollars to the city, really, you could be driving them down in the local neighborhood. Also, a lot of people, despite the telegram, despite it being out there for a short period of time, a lot of people still didn't realize, even until today, that this was happening. And so I think it would be, I know it's a teeth-pulling process, but to look at how this zoning works, look if it's worth reevaluating. I don't know, is the development company, is it based here or in Austin? Here? Okay, I wasn't sure on, so I want to make sure, thank you. But that, as well as all it takes is one post on a neighborhood Facebook page to rile everybody up, whether it's somebody's cat, messed in the flower bed next door, whatever it is. Something like this, if people who still didn't realize that there's apartments going up across the street from them, they're going to get riled up. That takes place usually during election seasons. We have a high voting neighborhood. There's a lot of things that could be a backlash against the city that I don't want to see. And I don't know. There hasn't been enough transparency, I believe. And that's not saying that you haven't been transparent or even the developer. It's just, I don't feel like enough has been known between 2004 and now. I didn't even live here back then. So I think there needed to be more awareness going into this than there currently is. At the very least, I think the neighborhood would be willing to compromise on a single story development. And I know that mentioned that loses money for the developer, but I can't imagine that there's a shortage of space around Temple that this development could go with 4 stories that doesn't encroach on a neighborhood. And I think what we saw in the economic development plan earlier kind of highlights that. Invest in Temple, it's growing. I don't think that means we need to cram Temple. I think it just means we need to be smart about how we grow Temple. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
My name's Elisa Roth. I also live in Hills of Westwood. I'm in charge of the 3 committees, including the Neighborhood Watch, and I also do the newsletter. I tried to get out as much information as I could to let people know about this meeting. However, some people don't look at what you send them. But we wanted to talk about, first, they told us when we were in the zoning meeting, we all know it's a floodplain. Okay. Then we had people saying, well, how are you going to get the water when we only can water ours once a week? I'm like, oh, we have plenty of water. Well, which is it? Do you have plenty of water or not plenty of water? And then when this floods, where's it going to go? Into a lot of the homes. Also, what they talked about was the streets, how they're going to widen. Where are you going to widen it at? Have you seen Hogan Road? I don't know where they're going to widen this. And they're just slap on a piece of, repaving, and that's supposed to fix it? No. The same with Old Waco, that those 2 streets that kind of join together. They're both really in need of work, bad work. And we've already got enough development going in on the other side of me and across the way from me, and then all the way down on Hogan. And like they said, there was just one built up on Tarver and Pea Ridge. And even with 2 stories, that's going to be looking into people's backyards regardless.
I don't think between 2004 and 2014, like he said, we weren't even here. I don't think that what this developer had in mind, at least I hope so, it was just to say, oh, I don't care, gives me money, go ahead and build it. That's not fair to us. We didn't have enough input in this. We weren't there. We've been told that that some people would still have nice views, that they wouldn't build up around there. Well, then all of a sudden, oh, well, this has been zoned and now we're going to build up there. It's like, nobody ever told us that. And they talked about the traffic. Well, they're doing the traffic a little bit on Pea Ridge and Hogan. They're not doing the traffic that comes into the neighborhoods then. We've already got enough traffic in our neighborhood to where I had to put in traffic calming petitions, because people are coming through and they don't care how many kids are on the road. There's a lot of kids in that development. They just drive right through. I've seen people almost get hit right around on Hogan when it comes around to Rolling Brook, blind corner. There's no light on Old Waco and Hogan. That is a blind corner. I mean, that's dangerous. And I don't understand the way they're building it, what they have that they're building it with will definitely not be considered part of what normal houses are built with. And that's, enough as it is going to bring down the property values. And with the inflation, a lot of people can't move. A lot of people probably would if they could. A lot of people wouldn't even have moved there if they'd known all this. Why weren't we told? I mean, I think it would have been easy enough. We got crime that's going to build up. And I know the police department is taxed as it is. We need more. The traffic, the crime, we need all this looked into more thoroughly. And I'd appreciate it if someone would please do that for our neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ruth Ochiltree. I live in Hills of Westwood. I am less than the 200 feet from where this is going to be built. Honestly, my house is 2 years old. Some of the houses aren't even a year old. You're saying this is something that was planned and allowed since 2004. Within this last decade, all of the neighborhoods popped up. So the city in itself should reconsider what can and can't go there. I'm fine if it's a single home. I'm fine even if they do nice duplexes. Again, with the look, all of our homes, at least 3 of our walls are full brick and stone, all of that. There might be a little bit of hardy board on most of our houses. Most of our houses are single story. A 2-story in my backyard, they will see everything. I will never have privacy in my backyard. Then you're talking about adding a couple of 100 people and then carports and everything directly behind my house. I came out here, most people moved out here still to have family, safe places for our kids, everything quiet. I don't want Round Rock and Austin. I'm from Round Rock. I did not move here for that. I came for open views. We were actually told it was going to be a park. That's what we were told. Now I'm hearing a sidewalk on both sides. The last meeting, they literally said it was going to be on the side of the apartments. Now they're saying apartments. Then it was townhomes. What is this? Where are they going to put it? Like, they're already in my backyard. Hogan Road is pretty much my backyard. People come through there. I'm afraid cars are going to come slamming into my house. Where are you expanding this? Where are you putting it? So we're lied to now that now there's 2 sidewalks on each side. We were told 1. There's a lot that does not make sense. I would have never bought this house if we knew. I could not turn around and sell my house for any worth of value, that being directly behind it. I know I wouldn't. I would look and be like, I do not want an apartment complex directly behind my house. It does not match anything of what's going on. They can build right down Hogan Road, going toward 317. I can't remember the exact name. It's West Side something. Beautiful duplexes that match what is all the neighborhood and everything around. We have this for a reason. We moved to the area for a reason. And to say something that was approved almost 2 decades ago, a decade, all of our stuff was built up. It didn't exist. It needs to be reconsidered for everyone around. And again, it's going to mess with our values of our homes, everything. People are going to leave. It's going to upset people. This is not where it belongs at all whatsoever. And yeah, I'm really really upset hearing 2 sidewalks now. Where is this expansion? Like, last meeting, literally, they said one sidewalk. So there's a lot of things that's getting thrown in and new stuff that it's not making sense. And you need to put in consideration to what the families are around and why we are there. There are kids galore, even going down Hogan. I can't even imagine with what the crossing guards right in there do. And you're gonna add a couple hundred people in these tacky carports and everything into an area where it's all beautiful single family homes. Like, it's going to trash everything we have. And it's upset me. And we won't even have our view. Like, I won't be able to see the sunset at all anymore. All this is gonna block and take everything away. No privacy, nothing. Like, it needs to be taken into consideration. Something 20 years ago that was allowed, okay, but 20 years ago, none of this was here. So the city should really take into consideration of how it's going to affect the people. I don't care what the person on the land, on how much they can get money wise and what they want to build up. You need to have enough respect of everything around and how it's going to affect everyone. It's not going to help you if it trashes everything and people leave. And then there is no more, no more, you know, the value is going to go down. You're going to end up losing more than anything. I think there should be a compromise in some way, shape, or form. Build single family homes, build a duplex, something that keeps it single level. A 2-story will still see everything into my backyard. There is no privacy. The noise alone is insane. I can't even imagine having a couple hundred people now directly behind my house and how loud it will be 24/7 at all times of the day. But I definitely think the council should start considering the people around, the homeowners around, and not just building up just because of hopeful more income. We're gonna lose it. We came here for a reason.
Again, it's, there's not a mechanism. Zoning doesn't change, no matter how much time passes, zoning doesn't change. If this council were, if this council wanted to make the change tomorrow, if we wanted to absolutely reconsider the zoning, there's not a mechanism to do it.
But
And I'm not trying to argue with
no,
you.
no, no.
But there truly is, there is not a way to do it. The zoning follows the land. And for 5 years, 10 years, 20, 50, the zoning follows the land. And the chart that was shown at the end of Mr. Chandler's presentation, if it wasn't for these 2 small exceptions that they're asking for, this very likely would not have come up. And it very likely would have been every building there would have had 4 stories.
Exactly. So how messed up is that for everyone around that was lied to and not knowing this? But the thing is, I understand the
Who lied to you?
zoning and they can build.
Who lied to you?
Oh, our builders, Omega,
Sure.
Kill, I know, but we're
I
not
mean,
told
they
this.
spoke
We
out of
weren't,
turn.
nothing was
Maybe
told
they did
to
lie
us
to you,
for
but
this. But again,
we
it does
can't.
say multi-homes. Why can't it be a duplex? I think y'all could step in and say, you need to have this facade. It needs to look like this. Okay, this is how it's gonna affect it. This is gonna drop the area. This is gonna drop everyone else's property areas. This zoning is great. Build duplexes instead. There's something that can be done. I understand the zoning's there, they can build, but something can also be done. Some type of consideration can be made on how it's gonna affect everything. Duplexes are multifamily homes. Why can't there be a duplex?
Because the developer,
I know what the developer wants.
we
This
can't,
is
the
why we're
city
expressing
council
our
cannot
concern.
dictate what the product that the city council no longer can dictate what materials are used on the building. We used to be able to do that. That there was no more than, 35% cementitious wood, hardy plank, right? And there a certain amount of masonry was required, things like that. It may have been that when your home was built, that it required brick on 3 sides.
2 years ago. My house is 2 years
And
old.
that's about when the law changed.
Okay,
At
a
the
year
state
ago,
level.
the houses are
At
still
the-
being built that way, and they're year-old houses. But I'm just saying, so you're pretty much saying, our city council, people that, you're voted into office, everything, you cannot step in and protect your people and be like, you know what, they're voicing these concerns, and I understand it. This development, yes, can be done, yes, but consideration needs to be made. it will throw up our crime rate too. Like it's absolutely going to be horrendous. This is the worst thing that could happen. That area is not made for that. If you look at that area, you drive there, that would be the most out of place thing. And like I said, where is this? Now we're saying 2 sidewalks. Last meeting, it was 1 sidewalk and it was on that side. So where is all this extra stuff now coming in that all of us are unaware of? And where is it going? Are they coming into my backyard? Am I literally going to have a road at my back door? So we're expressing our concerns and we're hoping our city, our town will help us and be like, hey, these considerations need to be made. I know there's only so much you can do, but I mean, y'all do have a place of power as well, you know, to be like, hey, in
And we've used that,
consideration.
we've used that power to be sure that a rebuild of Hogan Road, and I've talked to people online that have said, you know, that I often have to drive and, you know, put my tires, you know, onto the shoulder, right,
Yeah.
an unimproved surface.
Yeah.
And so in those areas that we have the power, like knowing that how much the west side is growing, that it's time to rebuild Hogan Road. So the things that we have control of, most people would prefer a sidewalk on either side of the road. That way you don't have to cross the
There's no
street
room.
to get to a sidewalk.
That's the thing. There's no room. So
It's
that means
already
you're gonna come
designed
in.
and being built, fixing to be built.
So,
There is room. So
okay,
it is
they were
under- it is
saying one.
designed.
So
It's
where
been
did it
designed.
come? Where did it come? Literally last meeting said 1 sidewalk on 1 side.
Last meeting being
The
planning
last
and zoning.
November 6th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian, do
One
you
side.
have any, 'cause I'm sure you gave that presentation.
Yeah, I'm happy.
I don't mean to throw you under the bus, but
No,
I'm sure
no,
you
no,
can clear it up.
I'm happy to address that. So the focus was on the sidewalk that we knew was coming in at that time because we didn't have the plans.
Okay.
Since P and Z, we got the plans, the
And
actual
P&Z was
engineered
what, 3
cross
weeks
section.
ago, a month
So-
ago?
So yes, we just focused on the sidewalk that was going to be on the south side because that's where this project is.
Yeah.
We didn't mean to suggest that there wasn't going to be a sidewalk on the north side. We just didn't have the plans to be able to focus on that in the presentation.
I got one other question. You showed the traffic, right? You're showing it for what the apartments are gonna bring. Hills of Westwood is still being developed. They're about to build more houses. They're building houses everywhere. That number is nowhere near. It's gonna be way more congested to anything. If you're not there and you don't live there, you don't see how congested it is already.
But I do.
So it's ridiculous. So you're adding a couple hundred from apartments, you know, and then we keep hearing apartments, townhome. What is it? You know? But that's not including all the other builds around and how many other families. So that rate is gonna be way higher. And then for those that live there, we see the flooding. So how is all of that gonna affect? Because it turns into a river already, and there's people that are lined up right there that already have water pretty much coming into their backyards. You add more concrete, where does the water have to go? We already have issues with water pressure and everything in our neighborhood. How is it going to affect when you're adding that big of a unit, that many people in an area?
It has to be engineered in such a way that the water runoff doesn't increase after the project's built.
But there's a lot of other projects. That's what we're saying. There's so many other things being built up and homes already in the neighborhood being expanded. We're seeing the nightmare that's about to happen, but no one listens.
So when we're driving down a road, we don't see the right of way line. You don't see that line. This road is going to be built within that right of way. So there is room for that road to go in down that street. And who wouldn't want 2 sidewalks so you don't have to cross the street? Your child, your dog walking across the street to get to the other side that has sidewalk. So the road being built is within that right of way.
I get that. What we were told is the road where it's expanding is gonna be going up toward the side our houses are on. And then the other side, it was gonna be the sidewalk. So now you're saying 2 sidewalks, where's the road being expanded in between unless it's coming into our property lines in order to build it?
But it's not.
Cause
The right of way is already there. The job is designed, the job is bid, it's fixing to start. They're not taking your property, it's going in the existing right of way.
As I said during the P and Z, the right of way has already been acquired. We are not acquiring any additional right of way for the Hogan Road expansion.
Ma'am, are you finished? Okay. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Dallas Land. I'm one of the 7 that did object in writing, and I live in the hills of Westwood, right across the street. My biggest concern was the 3-story houses, and I know that you guys said that there were two buildings that were changed from 3-story to 2-story, but there was no mention of the third 3-story building that was at the top of the complex, which would be looking over all of our houses on Chalice Drive. That building wasn't mentioned at all. So
You know,
I don't
I
know
looked
how
at that.
one
Is there a
stands.
road separating? Right. So,
Sure, but
Right,
you've
so
still
it
got a
would be-
3-story unit. Yes, there's a road.
Mm-hmm.
But a 3-story, 40-foot high, they're still going to be able to see into our buildings. The number 5, the ordinance that was brought up before us was number 5, and they had limited building to 2 stories within so many feet of single-family housing. I appreciate the developer being willing to actually reduce the 3 stories to 2 stories, but I would like to also have them reconsider that third 3-story building that's right at the top of the complex that would look directly into my backyard. I mean, the way the map looks and the way the drawing looks, it's right there. I have a child with special needs who is 12 years old. Sometimes she runs into the backyard. Sometimes she's always in our backyard. She doesn't like noises. She's scared of people. Sometimes she wears headphones when she goes outside. To have someone looking into our backyard is one of my biggest concerns. And that 3-story building that's there that no one mentioned, I would like for you guys to seriously consider changing that one to a 2-story as well.
Okay.
It would make a lot of us feel a lot safer.
right.
So,
And I understand the request, but remember, this is, it's not us making them change anything.
oh, I understand that.
Okay.
I understand that. And I appreciate that, but I would like the developer, even if they want to speak to me afterwards, I'll be glad to speak to them.
Okay.
I have a major concern with that last 3-story building that wasn't, mentioned, that planning and zoning would tell them that, that concession was for 2 stories. So planning and zoning did require those others to be changed. I would like for the third one to also be considered because it does look over all of our houses on Chalice Drive.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. You bet.
Hello, I'm Ken First. I live in Southern Draw. The apartments are gonna go against my back fence. So this really concerns me, of course. Now, you said that you're gonna go down to a 2-story, but that's still gonna look into my backyard. There's not even a street. It's just my backyard.
There is 50 feet.
Okay, we got that little mud road, I guess, behind my fence. Nothing. Crime is gonna go up. I was the president of our HOA for 7 years, 6 years. The city will not allow us to build a fence on the backside of our property. We have a gated community, one way in. But the backside of our property cannot be enclosed in by a fence or anything like that because the city won't allow it.
The back lot, the back area of the whole subdivision or your individual backyard?
No, my backyard has a
Got it.
fence.
Okay.
The back part of our subdivision, they were going to put in actually another road, another set of houses back there. The city said, no, we're not going to do that because of the floodplain. But they won't let us build a fence to block off the back part of it either. We have a sign with little markers on it, but there's no privacy. You can still walk in and out just as free as me walking to you. That's not fair for us. And we can't do anything. We brought this to the city before and the city won't let us enclose this fence.
In this complex?
In my complex at Southern Draw.
No, this complex that we're talking about
Okay.
is, do you think that more people are gonna want to come that way, crossing where you would like a fence to be because of this apartment complex?
Well, of course, there's gonna be a whole bunch more people there. And when you have that much people, you're gonna have theft. It's gonna rise. It's a proven fact. Would it not?
I think someone that wants to steal something probably will, I don't think they're necessarily gonna go cross country, but I don't know.
We don't all have the privilege of picking who lives next door to us, even in your development there.
Yeah, but you can secure your property.
You can secure
We
your
can't.
property. However, an apartment renter does not constitute theft. Not all the time.
I'm not gonna say that everybody that lives in that
the city of
apartment is gonna
Temple,
steal from me, but I am saying that there are people gonna be moving in there that could.
there's people living in your development that could steal as well. So the thing is, I'm trying to be nice because I'm city council. The thing that I love about the city of Temple is the diversity and the fact that we have low income and we have high income and we can all live together. Maybe someone can't afford the house that you might live in, but they can afford an apartment and they go to work just like you or anyone else. So having that stigmatism with apartments and raggedy carports, as they're called, is wrong. So we can't say, I don't want this person to live here because they don't have my income level.
I didn't say that.
And it's proven higher crime in lower income areas.
Hey, if you want to speak, you need to come up here. Okay,
Correct.
This isn't a free for all. Okay.
So what all I'm saying is that, we can't all afford to live where some of other people live. And so we have to have this opportunity. If we want to grow and be a successful city as we are already, we have to allow. We can't just say, okay, well, I want all the apartments on this side of town. I want all the apartments not in my backyard. I want it in their backyard. Where are we going to move them to? That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Okay, well, and I understand what you're saying, ma'am, I do. But I mean, my house is gonna be harder to sell once these apartments go up. Cause I know if I were to buy my house and there was a 2-story building from me to you, and they're looking in my backyard, I wouldn't buy that house. And I'm sure you probably wouldn't either. So trying to sell my house is gonna go down. The value, I'm gonna have to drop the value of my house to sell it when I decide to. So that's not fair to me. My community can't be fully enclosed by the city to protect us, but it's very frustrating. How can I get a fence built behind our property to protect us that way? You are the city, please inform me how to do this.
I'll give you my card. I will call you tomorrow and talk about, look at your situation. I don't understand why you wouldn't build it, but
I don't either, but the city won't let us.
permits, and I'll talk to you.
In my mind, that's a separate issue that I would like to have looked at. And or Mr. Chandler's willing to do that, so.
Sorry, let me give you my card.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So call me tomorrow and we'll talk about it.
Sir, I appreciate it. Thank you. All right. But yeah, that's my concern is, like when I go to sell my house, the value is going to drop. And that's not fair. So, if the developer can at least go 1 story along the fence line to Southern Draw, that would help to some extent. But again, that's on the developer's end. I know you'll have no control of that.
I do
So-
understand, and I have 2 apartment complexes in my backyard, and they're 2-story. And I planted a lot of trees. So, and it's helped a little bit, but I understand what you're saying. I do.
All right. Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Ma'am?
My name is Mary Collier. I'm blessed to be part of the Temple community since 1985. And I have seen a lot of wonderful growth and progression in this city. When I moved to Temple, I lived on the south side. I moved to the west side in 2008, purchased a brand new home. I have seen tremendous growth, and I understand that the zoning laws and things can't be changed. But gosh, guys, Temple has changed so much since 2004. When I moved to the west side of Temple, just to let you know, I lived in Westfield is where I lived. That was brand new when I moved in. I bought a brand new home. And that area grew and grew, and there were apartment complexes and things coming in. And yes, it did change the way the neighborhood looked, but it didn't really make the neighborhood bad. I chose to move because I wanted a bigger house. I knew when I bought my house, it was in May of this year. So I've not been in the hills of Westwood very long. And I talked with the builder about what was coming. I did see some wide apartment complexes going up as I was in the process of moving in. I knew those were there. It didn't concern me. This new development, I'm having a hard time visualizing how it's going to fit in. The roads, the infrastructure there, it's going to need some major overhaul for that to be successful. I've already noticed, and I drove through the hills of Westwood at different times of the day and night, weekends, just to see how the community looked, at all times. I was very impressed. I still am impressed, but I am concerned about the way decisions are made. When I bought my house, I asked my home builder, what's coming? What is this going to all look like? I was never told there were going to be any more townhomes or apartments. I knew of the ones that were being built, but they weren't right in my backyard the way they are in some of these other people's backyard. And I'm just a little concerned about it. And I just wanted to voice that maybe as the city of Temple continues to progress and grow, that we reevaluate the way we want our community to look and the way decisions are made. I'm concerned about my property value going down as just a new resident over there. I'm going to be very optimistic and hope that it doesn't. And I hope that we don't look back and think, gosh, I wish we wouldn't have done this, or I wish we would have put more thought into it. That side of town has a certain ambiance, I guess you would say. That's why I'm still over on that side of town. I like it. That's all I wanted to say. I've got some concerns about the infrastructure. The roads are both, to get to my house, all of the roads you go down, they're very narrow and they're older. They need some overhaul. And I would just ask that the council, whoever makes these decisions, just put a little bit more forethought as they continue to make decisions that are affecting all of us and the way our city is looking. So thank you for listening to me.
Sure. Thank you. I moved here in 94, and I remember when West Adams, I lived in Temple, went to church in Belton, and I remember when that was Bluebonnets, right? So there's no doubt, obviously, that it's grown up and quickly. Just today, we had a presentation in our workshop from a company that does demographic projections for cities. And right now it's estimated, based on the chart that's in this presentation, that we have somewhere right now, and I'm the mayor here, and I've used the population number of 86,000 people. That's what I've been telling people. Well, 86,000 people was 2020. And it's estimated that we now have somewhere between 95,000 and 103,000 people living in the city of Temple, in the city limits. And which, that's kind of embarrassing for me, right? I was 20,000 people short. But we just learned that today, that's the estimate. And the thing is as we continue to grow, there are fewer, and this is basically an 8-acre tract. And those larger areas, which 8 acres is considered large, those are going to continue to be gobbled up. This one's been owned for, like I said, the zoning's changed. I don't know if it's been the same owner. Has it been the same owner all along? Okay, it's changed. But again, the zoning follows the land, right? It doesn't follow the owner. And so someone bought this piece of land with the intention of developing it. It's 8 acres, a lot more units per acre than single family or duplex. But really, these top projects, as we go along, and we're projected in 2038. So I know I keep looking at you. I'm not just talking to you. I'm sorry. But in 2038, we are expected to be somewhere between 137,000 and 146,000 people. So that's a 40% growth from where we are now. So in the future, these projects like this, because there are fewer and fewer 8-acre tracts, right? And these projects, in the future, they will become more dense. There will be a time whenever the city will ask a developer, we know you can build 4 stories and, all the way around, and you can do it by right, but we're going to ask you not to do that. And there will become a time when they laugh in staff's face, because it'll all become about density. Mr. Barrow, you mentioned that earlier, right? About mental health issues around density. I think probably what they're talking about is things like, New York City, Hong Kong, Tokyo, places like that. I don't know, but it's only going to become more dense because, as Mr. Kennedy talked about and other data, the city of Temple is the 20th fastest growing city by percentage. So, there's always parameters around these kind of things. For cities over 50,000 people, the percentage of growth that the city of Temple has experienced is 20th in the nation. And of that top 20 towns on the fast growth track, 6 of them are in Texas. 1 is out near Houston. It's Conroe. And other than that, the other 5 fastest growing cities in the nation, percentage wise, are from Little Elm up in the Metroplex down to New Braunfels. So 5 of the fastest growing cities in the nation are in a 200-mile span of I-35. So I know it's very idyllic to think that we can, if we'll slow growth down or if we'll just stop building houses, right? If you stop building, they'll cease to come to Temple. It's not happening. People are coming here because of work that the Economic Development Corporation is doing. And believe it or not, houses are still considered affordable in Temple versus the rest of the nation. So we often talk about the California effect or the New York effect, those people coming from the coast to live in middle America, so to speak, because it's still affordable. Folks, we are right here in middle America. So, and again, we're in the busiest area of the busiest interstate in the United States. We are here. So when we talk about property value decreasing, those kinds of things, what's bearing out is that's not going to happen, because there is someone that will come along and buy your house that you think has now been undervalued, or that you've lost value because of an apartment complex being across your fence. Well, the reality is somebody will come along and buy that house. That house isn't just going to sit there, and you're going to not more than likely, I would say definitely you're going to get more for that house in 5 years than you paid for it 2 years ago, because it's simply supply and demand. And we struggle with more housing here. It's not a case of if you don't build it, they will not come. They will come. And the developer next time will say, I'm building 4 stories and I'm going to put as many apartments in that 8-acre piece of land that I can, because the demand is there for it. So we spend a lot of time talking about these kinds of things. I know it sounds super boring, but that's what we do. And the fact is, we are bursting at the seams, and there's nothing slowing the city of Temple down right now. Even in this poor economy with the highest interest rates we've seen in forever, people are still coming to Texas. People are still coming to Temple, and we had a 20% decrease last year. I talked to the city manager about this just during the meeting. We had 1,200 new housing permits in 2022. We're down to 888 new housing permits in 2023 at the end of the fiscal year. So it's slowing down. But in this little sleepy town, right, we're not sleepy anymore, but we think we are. We want to be in many cases. We think that things are really slowing down, but we still had 900 new homes built, 900 new permits pulled. So this isn't going to go away. And again, this developer, they could choose to max that piece of property out. They didn't this time, they will next time, because the demand is simply there. And even at 8 and 9% interest rates, development is going to continue. Right now, there are 50 projected subdivisions in the city of Temple and the ETJ. 50. Not all of them are, they're not 900 homes. Some of them are half a dozen homes. But again, things are not slowing down because people are coming here because of the opportunities that Texas presents, in Central Texas specifically. So I know that's a lot of words, and at some point I know I begin maybe to sound preachy, and I don't intend to do that, but everything that we see and everything that we study at this level points toward increased population, to the point that we can't build roads. And you're right. Somebody, I think you said it, that there's so many roads out there that need help. Well, it's because the infrastructure has not kept up with development. And it's not that we don't care, and it's not that it's not top of mind priority. It's simply that it is expensive. It's millions of dollars a mile to build a road, right? So you don't just go out there and just pick and choose. You have to be very strategic about where you're going to spend those millions of dollars a mile. And the slide that you showed with the arrows pointing to all the different capital improvement projects proves out that the city of Temple is investing as fast as we can, while at the same time keeping the tax rate at a reasonable level. So this council understands every concern here. And my hope is that the audience here will understand where the city of Temple is going, and the fact that on changing the zoning, our hands are tied. There's nothing we can do about that. We can do other things, right? We can ask them to build 2 stories instead of 4. We can put Hogan Road in to where it can handle the increased traffic that we know is coming. So the things that can be done, I think the city council and city staff is very diligent about getting those things done, figuring out where our priorities are, and putting the tax dollars, which are your dollars, to play in the most useful manner that has the largest impact. So we're not bad guys. We're not up here trying to take something from you, right? We're not trying to hurt you. But this is all of these things we've talked about today are allowed by right. And he could have built 4 stories. I say he, I don't know who it is. They could have built 4 stories if they wanted to. But out of consideration, they didn't. That was a lot. So we're still in the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak? Is there anybody on the virtual platform? Okay, thank you. Okay, so at this time, I will close the public hearing and I'll entertain a motion. Council, if there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion on item number 6.
Mayor,
Oh, no, just before a motion, were you making a motion?
after I speak. it will
Okay,
make some
speak and then I'll
comments,
speak.
But,
Before a motion, I just want to say something.
so I do intend to make a motion here. I know this is a very emotional deal for a lot of people. It's emotional for me. I do live in this area. I live very, very close to here. I've lived in this area, the Central Texas area, my whole life. I won't tell you how old I am. I've lived in the pretty close proximity to this almost 30 years. I very well know this area. I know what traffic looks like. I've driven it every day for years. They've had the right to do this now for almost 20 years. And back in 2004, all of these roads that were there were little bitty county roads, and most of them weren't even there. Or a lot of them, a lot of the outlets back over to Old Waco wasn't here. So I'm glad they waited till we're getting to this point to do it. If I were king, maybe I would say, don't do that. We're not king. I'm one council member on a council that raised my hand and swore to uphold the laws of the land. And the laws say that they can do this if they want to by right with a couple of minor tweaks. So we're not voting here today on whether they can build these apartments there or not. I'm happy they have a couple of variances here that gives us the opportunity to talk with them and get some of these things accomplished, getting the 3 stories back from beside these houses and some of the other things that we're getting out of them. I'm glad they're doing a lot of the landscaping here. That's way above and beyond what they have to do. I'm thankful for the developer for doing that. I like Zoe. I'm trying to be nice here. I have actually gone to the Realtors Association before and talked to several of them. Please quit telling people what will happen on the property next door unless you know.
Unless you own it.
And zoning can change. In this case, anybody that told anybody that an apartment couldn't be built here lied to them. We didn't lie to them. This was done by a council almost 20 years ago that allowed this. It's been there. I own property in other communities. When I go in and buy property, maybe it's because I'm a little super educated on this stuff. I've been messing with it and been on P&Z and stuff for years, but I do go in and look. It's public information. All of this is on the internet. It's been there since 2004. That if you know where to look, I'm not saying everybody should be an expert, but I do my research before I buy stuff. So, I wouldn't want to I wouldn't want to tell the builder you can no longer do what you could do with this property, what you could do when you bought it. I wouldn't want to do that. I say that's the little bit of libertarian bend in me almost wants to say, I'm not going to tell you anything you can do with your property. Nobody likes people telling you nobody likes being told what they can do. I'm not quite there. I do realize that to have a nice city and a growing city, we do need to have some say so in it. And in this case, it was said 19 years ago that they could do this. And like I said it before, I'm just thankful that we have the opportunity here to help and change it a little bit and make it better. I could make a motion, we could have discussion, but if Councilmember Long would like to speak before that, then.
I just wanted to underscore from Mary's point that South Pea Ridge and Hogan are going to be reconstructed at the same time that this is occurring. So some of that is a big plus. That's it, Mike. Thank you.
And like I say, I happen to know that this little section of Hogan right here is already bid, it's already let, it's fixing to start. It has 2 sidewalks, it has 3 lanes. It's better than it is now. It will be before, I believe it'll probably beat the complex being complete, having that down there. I can't say that for sure. That's just from what I've seen, I think it probably will be. And yeah, I know it makes a lot of people mad, but we just don't have the option of saying no, like everybody wants us to do. We don't have that option. Having said that, I am going to move to approve this as presented with the exceptions. And I want to put a little narrative here. I'm thankful that the P&Z did their job and suggested those suggestions. And I'm thankful that they want to put, that the developer's willing to do it. Should have said that before the motion started. But I move to approve this with all that was presented, including with the P&Z requested exceptions. And I would also ask that between the first and second reading, if the staff could talk to them and see if they may be amenable to doing something with the 2 stories up front. That's my motion. Does that work?
Second that.
Does that motion work with saying the building up front?
Is that intended to be part of your motion?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, they can do that between first and second reading, correct? And we can.
So part of your motion is yes. and
To have the staff speak to them about.
Is it contingent upon them agreeing or anything like that?
No.
I'm making it a requirement.
Not making a requirement, no.
Very good. I have a motion. Do I have a second? Did I miss it? Okay. We have a motion by Councilmember Pilkington. We have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. Council, please cast your vote. Item 6 passes 5 votes to 0. Moving on to item 7 is the first reading in a public hearing. Hold on, before I move on, thank you all for coming. It's your neighborhood, it's your home. Thank you for taking the time to learn and to come here tonight. We appreciate it.
And Mayor
Thank y'all.
Davis, can I put in a plug for our zoning information that's on our website? templetx.gov/maps. You can look at the zoning for any property, and if you had any questions, you call planning and development. We can answer those, but that way you can know what is happening, what could be done on property near your house. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, moving on to item 7 is the first reading in a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance amending PD Ordinance 2005-4049 on 55 acres generally located at the northwest corner of Loop 363 and Martin Luther King Jr. Drive to remove the condition that individual residential units will be located on separately platted lots, specifically for properties located in Block 1, County Lane Addition Phase 3 in Block 1. I'm sorry, I said county. Located in Block 1, Country Lane Addition Phase 3 and Block 1, Country Lane Addition Phase 4, addressed as 1004 and 1008 through 1224 River Hills Court. Mr. Chandler.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. And this is another plan development amendment to an old ordinance from 2005, but this one is a little more straightforward. So this is the Country Lane senior housing development north of the Loop and just west of South MLK Drive. And so you can just see the character of the neighborhood. This section, these are what we call single family attached or twins. They look like duplexes, but each unit is platted on a separate lot. That's the only difference. And so just a little bit more of the character, the surrounding area, which include apartments within Country Lane. And as I mentioned, this is a 2005 ordinance number 2005-4049, another O2 plan development. So the original ordinance divided the residential uses into three categories. A mix of senior housing in campus style with detached single family duplexes and single family attached uses such as townhomes. So the request is simply to remove condition 1, which states individual residential units will be located on separately platted lots. So that would merely provide an opportunity for the owner to combine those two units into a single duplex. And our understanding is that they want to do this for tax purposes. And so the comprehensive plan identifies this area as Temple Medical and Education District, which includes a variety of different housing types. And so this is certainly consistent with that. The thoroughfare plan identifies Loop 363 as a highway and MLK Junior Drive as a minor arterial. So this is certainly not in conflict with that. The TMed Neighborhood Planning District identifies this area as the Tarrant Park Subdistrict, named after the park just behind the VA, and recognizes increase in both single family and 2F or duplex housing in the vicinity. So this is consistent with that plan as well. And this is in TISD. Thank you. All right. So newspaper notice was printed on October 26th, like previous zoning cases. 131 properties were mailed to within 200 feet. And that also includes the properties. There's another owner within the actual Country Lane development. 3 responses were received in favor, representing 42 different properties and 39 belonging to the applicant. There were none in opposition. The Development Review Committee reviewed this on October 23rd. And so staff's recommendation is for approval. Planning and Zoning Commission at their November 6th meeting recommended approval by a vote of 5-0 with 1 abstention. And just to clarify that all other conditions in the ordinance still apply, except for the individual residential units will be located on separate individually platted lots. And I'm available to answer any questions.
Thanks, sir. Council, any questions for Mr. Chandler? All right. At this time, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak on this matter may do so. We ask that you raise your hand on the platform or step to the podium. This item's a little kind of boring. All right. So nobody, right? Nobody? Okay. I'll close the public hearing and entertain a motion on item 7.
Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve item 7 as presented by Mr. Chandler.
Second.
Have a motion by Councilmember Long. We have a second by Councilmember Grant. Council, cast your vote. Item 7 passes 5 votes to 0. Item 8 reads, it's the first reading at a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing the voluntary annexation of 167.331 plus or minus acres of land situated in the Maximo Marino Survey, abstract number 14 in the City of Temple's East Extraterritorial Jurisdiction, located generally south of 93 Spur, west of Old Highway 95, approximately 1,600 feet south of its intersection with East FM 93, addressed as 7246 Old Highway 95. Mr. Chandler.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. And as was indicated, this is a voluntary annexation request. Keep in mind that we are now sending these through the Development Review Committee process as well, just like plats and zoning cases, so that all departments can discuss it. We're not just sending out the plan request to them and have them respond via email. So we feel like this is a good use of everybody's time. So just to show you exactly what we're talking about, the area identified in the black boundary, as was mentioned, it abuts FM 93, and it's kind of catty corner from a WBW, basically in what they were calling Stomping Grounds subdivision, that is essentially kind of an expansion of the Alta Vista subdivision. And so zooming in a bit, you can see a little more closely what is around there. And so this is a request by two different owners. So Boker's LLC that owns the 146 and change shown there on in the cross-hatched area, but also TISD. So for a future school site in the center of future residential. Of course, this is not a rezoning that is being requested, but that should be coming before too long, because we do at least have a concept plan showing 350 residential lots, once again, surrounding a school site. And so per chapter 43 of the local government code, Texas local government code that addresses voluntary annexation, this property is contiguous to our city limits. The petition was approved by, or excuse me, petition requested by the owner, and municipal service agreement agreed to. Also, we've notified any agencies that are directly impacted, including the school district, of course, Little River Academy Volunteer Fire Department, because they are currently the fire service provider, but that will change upon annexation. And so, of course, we've communicated with our Temple Fire Rescue and EMS, also notified Bell County. And in terms of any fiscal impact on the school district, they'll evaluate that with the future rezoning. Municipal service agreement was developed and circulated, and of course, in addition to just a discussion at the Development Review Committee. And then the municipal services are to be provided in the manner as all other properties within the city limits. And so staff recommends approval of this voluntary annexation. And I'm available to answer any questions.
Thanks, sir. Council, any questions? All right, at this time, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak may do so. Ask that you step to the podium or raise your hand on the platform. No one? Milton? Nothing? You don't want to talk tonight? You've been awful quiet over there. All right, then there being no one wishing to speak, I will close the public hearing. And council, if there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion on item number 8.
I'll move to approve item 8 as presented.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Councilmember Pilkington. We have a second by Councilmember Long. Council, cast your vote. Item 8 passes 5 votes to 0. Item 9 is the first reading of public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing amendments to the Temple Code of Ordinances, Chapter 37, to add sections 37 through 108 regarding paid parking.
That's
Mr. Nuttall.
actually 37-108, not
Oh, okay.
through 108.
Good. I thought, wow, y'all are gonna make me read that.
And we don't want you to read it.
No. The purpose of this, of us bringing this to you, we've got chapter 37 already in the works for an entire rewrite, making sure that it's updated. But we have the parking garages opening. And so this kind of provides a temporary fix, a Band-Aid, if you will, to authorize management of these garages and other parking downtown, allowing the allowing the city manager or her designee to create policies and set fees. So the highlights of this section are, it defines metered parking and metered parking area, just indicating that that is essentially an area where you have to pay a fee to park there for a certain period of time. It provides that the city manager or their designee is authorized to designate these metered parking areas, and allows it for both on-street locations and within parking garages. And it also provides that the city manager can determine policies, regulations, and rates for metered parking. All of these policies and regulations and rates, the language in the ordinance is to allow for variation. I know there's been talk about electric charging stations in at least one of our garages, and this would allow different policies to apply to that, different rates to apply to that, as compared to the rest of the parking garage. So it allows a lot of leeway to make sure that our use is proper. And then the last thing it does is it creates a violation if you fail to pay the park for the metered parking, or if you perform a prohibited act or fail to perform something you're required to do by the policies and regulations authorized. And that's a quick overview. If you have any questions, I also have a slide, this next slide, this is the actual language as it was in your packet.
It's almost up to 108.
Man, you need a magnifying glass.
We'll read that on our own. Council, any questions for Mr. Nuttall?
I have a question. So the metered parking is in the garage as well? And that's for the electric cars, or?
It'll be in the garages or on the streets in downtown area, essentially. I mean, we can make metered parking elsewhere under this Band-Aid ordinance, but that would be where it would be most likely. It is required to be marked.
Marked?
Yes,
Yeah.
it'll be marked with some sort of signage.
Yes.
For the garages, at any vehicular entrance, on-street parking would be at either end of the metered area, and in the middle if necessary.
Anything else? All right. This item is subject to a public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak may do so. All righty. No.
Tim.
I knew you couldn't just sit there.
I am slow to understand, slow to walk. But I think I got the gist of the situation. Hey,
Maybe.
my name is Milton Hensley. I live at 301 Mitchell Drive. Now, if I understand this proposal, it is the city council's intention to charge me to park. Is that correct?
In some places,
In some places.
yes, sir.
So we are voting on something that we don't know anything about.
We are voting on the creation of an ordinance that can be changed at a later time.
But we still don't know anything about it. I do not know where I have to pay to park. Do I have to pay to park in one of these garages?
All that's to be determined. This is setting up the structure to allow to charge if necessary. There's been a lot of talk around this, Milton. We've never done something like this. So
I know that.
Well,
And I
there's
have
not-
never paid except when there was parking meters and overparked or something. I'm not for this.
Okay. What this does, Milton, is this sets up a structure to allow the staff to write and the city, the council to adopt an ordinance around parking and possible
Yes, sir. I
charges.
understand that.
Okay,
Yes, sir.
And just to clarify, it's very similar to the setup for the 2-hour parking. The ordinance itself usually does not set the location. It is determined,
What 2-hour parking?
there are 2-hour parking areas
Here?
in the city
You're
of Temple.
kidding me.
Yep, they are marked with signage, just like these will be.
I am slow to understand.
that's okay.
I'm still not for it.
Okay.
Maybe we can make a
you
Milton
did
Hensley
understand what I
parking
said.
pass.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Anybody over 90 gets to park free wherever they want to.
Everybody that's left here is with the city, correct?
Yeah.
Andrew.
One.
We have some public online.
Yeah, that's what I figured.
And we do have someone who wants to speak.
Okay, good. Thank you, Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You bet. Thanks for hanging in there with us.
And I appreciate you keeping you cool tonight.
Oh. Does that mean that I don't normally? Which would be a true statement. So I'll let Mike and Zoe handle that tonight. We have somebody online? Thank you, sir.
Yes, hello, this is Shannon Evans again. Regarding the parking, are you guys going to keep it unified under like one app or something? It's not going to be like some of those cities where you have to download an app to park on one street and then like 3 streets later, you have to download another app to park. Is there going to be some sort of unified like consistency of some sort so that we're not struggling?
Yes. Yes. We'll have one single platform for parking throughout downtown.
That would be
Yes, ma'am.
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Milton, it's still open. You're good?
No, no.
Hey, listen, if you're gonna talk twice, you need to sit closer to the podium.
There's one thing else I know.
Yes, sir. You need
I
to run for
appreciate that.
council.
It is not allowing me to park where I want to park. There are some places that I cannot park. And you know where those are. It's at these restaurants downtown. I don't know what they'd do if I would park there. I don't know if this gentleman right back here would come and take care of me. I don't know. But to me, it is not fair to let someone park to go into a restaurant to feed himself and her. And I have to pay for it.
Mayor, if I may, while we haven't
Oh, yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Well, we are still working on several proposals for council's consideration, but most likely what we would bring forward would be, there would be a period of time where you would be allowed to park, say an hour or 2 hours, enough time so that you could have your dinner, your supper. And so it's not necessarily paid parking at all times. Our goal is to make sure that there's parking available in front of restaurants and retail establishments. And one of the ways that we can accomplish that is to encourage people not to park there all day, so that when you're eating there, you have a space to park. But when you're not, you're not taking up that spot for someone else. So most likely, while we're still working through what options and best practices, most likely what you'll see staff recommend to council is a system where you can park to have lunch or have dinner, but just encourages you to, when you're done, to move on or park in the parking garage if you want to park for a longer period of time. And then I should also say, for folks that are that need to use disabled parking, that will always be available without any time constraints for those who need that special access.
I'll fall into that category.
Yes, sir. So that's where I get my Milton Hensley parking pass. I'll make you a special placard for your car.
It's a wonderful time.
Milton would kill me in the
He would.
Take me.
That's Right. That's funny. Thank you, Milton. Anybody else? No? All right. At this time, I will, counselors, if there's no further discussion, I will, actually, I will close the public hearing, and council, if there's no further discussion, I'll entertain a motion on item 9.
I will make the motion to approve item 9.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. We have a second by Councilmember Long. Council, cast your vote. Mike already has. Item 9 passes 5 votes to 0. Item 10 is the first reading in a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance authorizing an amendment and adopting the tax increment financing reinvestment zone number 1 financing and project plans to align with master plans, which includes adjusting revenues, adjusting funding for future debt service, operating expenditures, and public improvements for years fiscal year 2024 through 2062. Ms. Bernard.
Yes, thank you, Mayor and Council. This amendment was presented to the Board of Directors of the Reinvestment Zone yesterday morning, and they did approve, and now it's coming to you on first reading. Just a quick overview, September 27th, the Reinvestment Zone Board approved an amendment that just focused on FY 23 and 24. It did adjustments to interest income, increment revenue based on the certified values, and then rolled monies into public improvements with the thought of waiting until we opened or did an evaluation of the outer loop bid, and the project and finance committees had time to go through the plan in more detail. And they met on November 8th and come up with the amendment that was presented to the board yesterday, November 15th. And this amendment focused on FY 24 through 2062. It adjusted increment revenues 25 forward with estimates for future growth. It also had an adjustment related to the redesign of Palmer or Meta project, and then an adjustment for another EDA prospect that didn't follow through with their capital investment, and then an adjustment for debt service project, and then several projects were funded and project savings from other projects, and then also public improvements from 24 throughout the life of the plan through 2062. Increment revenue, again, mentioning about the forecasting growth. We use the certified value as our base. Some big increment that's coming on in the future relates to some commercial development with HEB for the refrigerated warehouse and the automated freezer storage space. That will be adding increment to the reinvestment zone in the near futures. Also, there multiple residential developments that are occurring, or plats have been approved, preliminary plats. I think I counted up with these approximately 2,700 lots. We forecast those and add that for future increment. Just quickly going over the Meta, of course, they paused their current plans, went to a new design, and now we need to adjust our future increment revenue related to that. The original plan, we're forecasting 3 phases with increments for each phase of about 6.3 million, and the first one coming online in FY 2025. With the new design, we're estimating only 1 phase with $1 billion investment, which equates, because of the amount of real property, equates to 6.3 million for total investment. And that phase comes online in FY 2028. The other one that the financing plan was amended in March 22nd, 2023, adding the economic development prospect client It was a capital investment of 420 million. 126 million of it was real property. Was going to add an annual increment of about 2.7 million. Also had an infrastructure grant, a little over 1.1 million for 7 years. And it was to start in 2027 or come online. And we're reversing or removing that with this proposed amendment. Quickly looking at the financing plan, what was our current and then what's proposed. The third column shows the increase or decrease in the increment. But I would like to note the far right column, even we're adjusting a downward increment or taking away some increment, we still have annual increases. And each year we review and adjust future revenues where needed. Debt service, real quickly, these bonds were issued in June of 2023. We've already adjusted out the 2024 savings. The total amount of interest and principal and interest to be paid over the life was 3.8 million less than what was in the plan. So we had that decrease. Projects with the Meta redesign, there was also less infrastructure needed for the project, and this is essentially a defunding, no longer funding those projects in the plan, and that's a little over $14.2 million. Some other small plans are the library master plan, taking those monies away, using unallocated dollars in 2024 of 7.9 million, and then bond contingency. And this is all shifting these project funds to other projects in order to fund them. I wanted to go over that project list, the highlights. There's a new project additional dollars added for the North Industrial Park Master Plan. There were Old Howard improvements, expansion of that scope, and adding 2 million to that project. The outer loop, Winland I-35, adding a little over $7.9 million to that project based on the bid awards. That will be coming to you December 7th. A new project for a wastewater line. Just again, to highlight a few, Avenue A design, $776,000. And then added 3 million to Veterans Memorial Boulevard funding, but also moved the funding, one phase of the project out to 2027. I know it's kind of complicated. Again, a total source of funding, 13 million, and we've, of that amount, 5 million's from a grant, 5 million's from other transfer from TCIP related to how grant funding was received, and then funding the additional 3 million out of increment revenues. Public improvements, I just wanted to note that in 2024, we did use the 7.9 million to fund projects. And even after the Meta adjustments, when you get out to years 2029 and 2030, there's still over 24 million, close to $25 million that are available for projects that have not been allocated. Pretty significant. And then just to close up, I wanted to show this summarizes that in the reinvestment zone for 2024, there is a total of $115.3 million of projects planned in those parks listed there. I think the largest one's the outer loop. And then if you look to the far right, you see over the period of through 2030, that totals $246 million. So significant investment for infrastructure and projects within our reinvestment zone. Within your packet, you have the financing plan, the detailed project plan, and then the TERS master plan project funding 2024 through 2028. And And I went over that pretty quick, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Bernard. Council, any questions for Tracy?
12 and 17, I think it was, or 15.
Okay. Oh, are you looking at Avenue C? Okay, on this plan too, Avenue C was funded in 27, and in order to make the projects work, the project committee wanted to move that to 2028. So it moved funding for Avenue C from 2027 to 2028. And then they also, there was funding in the zone for right away for Crestview Henderson to 24th Street. They wanted to add that funding, remove it, I want to say defund, and put that into public improvements unallocated. I know, Bryn, that you're
And
also,
what are those public improvements?
they're not identified as of right now.
Are submitting a grant application for funding for Henderson. So I'm hopeful that we might be successful in getting that and be able to continue to move forward with the project.
Starting at H or going up towards, I know we were talking about opening that street.
Yeah. The one that
That's the
connects
one?
from 24th to the kind of the new road area that would connect from the existing Henderson down to the 24th Street Bridge and connecting all of those dead end streets was the project. And they had funding for design, 30% design, which we have done. At the last meeting, you all approved the acquisition of some right of way that allowed us to reduce the amount of individual properties that we need to acquire and the amount of relocations quite significantly. But that did require a minor redesign. That will come to council. The contract amendment for that will come to council on December 7th.
Never mind.
And
There tonight.
Was it on tonight's agenda? I thought it was on the 7th. I'm sorry. But they did vote to move the funding for any additional right-of-way acquisition out of their plan.
That loss of future income due to the changes in some of the clients had a significant impact on the financing plan for the RZ. It's supposed to be, with Meta alone was supposed to be another $12.5 million a year, starting pretty soon. So that's a tough one.
So 2 projects that are in District 2 are scrapped.
So I can't hear what you're saying.
The 2 items in District 2 are scrapped.
Avenue C is still on their plan. They just moved it out 1 year. Henderson right-of-way has been removed. Or this amendment would remove it.
And again, they were looking at it that it was right away in 2026. And with this amendment, or it was funded in 2026. As the mayor mentioned, when we reduced funding, and I did go over that pretty quick. On Meta, the funding before we had it beginning in 2025. And it was 3 times of what it's really going to be. So we reduced it 2/3, nearly 11 or $12 million a year.
Well, it's 3 times and pushed back 3 years.
Yes.
Right. So that did impact the plan. And before, when they were programming out future dollars, the project plan and or project committee they did, Avenue C was important to the development. But again, based on their current priorities, they pushed it out a year in order to make all the funding work. And as far as Henderson, they were just, that was actually like on the floor vote yesterday. It was just when we went through the project and finance committee meeting, they had mentioned Henderson or that right-of-way dollars, but when we did the amendment, we did not remove that because we didn't think it wasn't needed to make the plan work, but they still wanted to remove it and put it in unallocated. I think again, as we go through each year, we'll, as new developments come online or as we work through the project committee, that if there's new development, new dollars, that those could be possibly be their priorities. But also I think we can look at it as we look at our TCIP funding for the future too, and the grant opportunities.
I think Henderson's a really important project.
And they've
Very.
talked about it for years.
And so many of the projects that they are keeping on the plan are things that are, they're not pretty. It's a pump station, it's upsizing, the 920 plane. It's infrastructure that's needed, but it's those kind of wow projects that we like to see. But these others are really important, and they feel like these were more important than those.
Anything else? All right, at this time, I'll open the public hearing on this item. Item 10, anyone wishing to speak, please step to the podium or raise your hand. Come on down, or we can bring you the microphone.
Appreciate your help, sir. Okay. My question is, it says this is from 24 to 62. Can it be amended between these years of 35 years? That's all I want to know.
It's amended often.
It doesn't go with the land or anything like that.
No, sir.
Nothing like that. Okay. Thank you, sir. Give me a hand. I got it. Yes, sir. I appreciate your help. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome. Thank you. Anybody on the platform? Anybody else from the audience, staff, except for one guy over there? Everybody's good?
Who's hanging in with us?
Right. Yeah, these are the dedicated ones. I'll close the public hearing on item number 10, since there's no one that wishes to speak. And council, if there is any further discussion, please let me know. Otherwise, I will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve item 10.
I'll second that motion.
We have a motion by Councilmember Mayor Pro Tem Walker. We have a second by Councilmember Long. Council, please cast your vote. Item 10 passes 5 votes to 0. Item 11 is to consider adopting a resolution finding that a portion of 5 properties situated in the Maximo Marino Survey, Abstract 14, located along and adjacent to Barnhart Road in Temple, Bell County, Texas, are necessary for the Barnhart Road reconstruction project, and authorizing the use of eminent domain to condemn the properties pursuant to Government Code Section 2206.053. Ms. Demers.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. I will try to talk as quickly as possible, but let you know what I'm saying. So we are in the process of acquiring right-of-way for the Barnhart Road reconstruction project. There's some properties that we do need to move forward with eminent domain in order to meet our construction timelines. This is a map of the project. The areas in red are the areas that we need that are the right-of-way parcels. Green is drainage easement, and blue is temporary construction easements. So there's 6 properties that we need right away from, 7 owners. However, Stateside is helping us with this. We've made all our offers. They went out in October, or our initial offers went out in October. Final offers have either been sent or will be sent based off of the expiration of the 30 days after the initial offer. Temple ISD is one of the owners, and they have already donated the easements and right-of-way necessary for the project. And just recently, we did reach an agreement with one property owner for a temporary construction easement. That was the only property interest needed on that particular property. We're not anticipating any business or residential relocations for this project, but there's a couple of properties, as you'll see on the slides coming up, that the owner would kind of be in a position that they would have that option. So, but right now they've indicated they don't want to relocate. So we're thinking that'll stay the case. So we're seeking eminent domain authorization on some rights of way and easements that we need. And we obviously will.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yes.
Just a general question.
Yes.
So we have some property owners out there that have indicated that they do not wish to be relocated.
Mhm.
And then the development comes in, right? And traffic, like we've talked about, things change and they change their mind.
No, not at that point. They have to.
Well, at what point do they lose it? Once the property's turned over?
Yes.
That
Yeah.
quick?
They would have to make that decision basically now in this
Got it.
portion.
Very
of the
good. Thank you.
Process. Okay. So throughout this process, we obviously, even though we will move forward with the eminent domain, we'll continue to negotiate and hopefully maybe get some settlement agreements, or even have the owner enter into what we call possession and use agreement, or a PUA. If they do sign that, that allows the city to go ahead and take possession of the property. That lets us move forward with construction while we continue to negotiate, or either schedule special commissioners hearing for a final valuation of the property. And we did present all the owners with PUAs at the time of their initial and final offers. So the first parcel is located at 4011 Little River Road. We need a little over 1/3 of an acre right away. Initial offer was made October 6th. The appraised value is $72,025. This particular owner has engaged an attorney, so we're working with that attorney to help facilitate. Final offer was sent on November 7th. As of today, we haven't received any counter offers. And so obviously this will probably be one that requires a special commissioner's hearing, as they have not indicated they will sign a PUA either.
That's the dirty dog spa place, isn't it?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. This is just for right away for this road at this time. So the next parcel is at 3820 State Highway 95. A portion of it obviously is adjacent to Barnhart Road, but it's addressed off of 95. We need a drainage easement and a temporary construction easement for this particular property, both very small easement interests that we need. Offer made October 6th. The appraisal came in at $2,878. Final offer was sent on November 7th. We haven't received a counter offer at this time, but the owner indicated yesterday that he would consider signing a possession and use agreement. The next parcel is located at 2120 Barnhart Road. We need about a little over 1/10 of an acre of right of way, as well as a drainage easement and a temporary construction easement. Initial offer was made on October 10th. The appraised value for this one was $32,023. This owner did sign a PUA on October 27th, and that was on your consent agenda tonight for approval. We sent the final offer on November 15th. Next parcel, 2115 Barnhart Road. We need a little over 1/3 of an acre, as well as a temporary construction easement. Initial offer was made on October 6th. Per the appraisal, just compensation is $368,310. This is one of the properties where the owner has indicated at this time is not wanting to relocate, but the reason for the high appraisal was essentially significant damages of about a little over $300,000 because of the proximity of the new right-of-way line to the residence. So it'll be very, very close to his front porch essentially, but right now has said he does not want to move. He has engaged an attorney, and we've been working with him to set up a meeting to kind of go over how the project will look. We did send the final offer on November 7th. We have not received a counter offer, but the attorney and I have worked on some language for the PUA, so I'm optimistic we'll get that signed. Oh, sorry, one more. This is at 3950 State Highway 95. We need 0.0, we have small tract of 0.0944 acres of right of way along with a temporary construction easement. This initial offer was made October 17th. Again, this is another one that has some damages because of the proximity. So the appraisal came in just under 340,000. As he's engaged an attorney as well, and we're in conversations with that attorney. We did send the final offer. This is one that will be sent on November 20th because of the days falls on the 31st day falls on a weekend, so it's pushing it to Monday. Haven't received a counter offer, but the attorney has indicated that his client would likely sign a PUA. So, but these are the two that, because of the proximity, could possibly turn into relocations, but neither owner is wanting to do that at this time. So that's the presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. I know I went through it quickly, but if I have any questions, happy to answer them.
Susan's the designated reader.
I'm happy to do it.
I'm
No,
making up for
she always-
Kyle not reading y'all the entire.
We asked her to read fast and in an accent. So
But
we'll see
we
how
have
she does.
to be sure she agrees to make the motion.
I said I'm fine. I'm happy.
Okay.
As long as there's, I think this is a public hearing, isn't it?
No,
No, no.
No public
Okay.
hearing. All right, so council, before Susan just jumps right in, any questions for Ms. Demers?
Just the statement that even though we're talking about the condemnation, the city will continue to work with the owners.
Yes, if we can
moving
get an
forward.
agreement before that hearing is set, or even up to the time we have the hearing, but we'll set the hearings, but still continue if we can reach an agreement.
I'm happy to make this motion, but I will point out that I received 4 copies of this from everybody here, so I had no choice. Anyway, item number 11, I move that the city of Temple approve resolution number 2023-0406-R and authorize the use of eminent domain to acquire fee simple title to 4 rights of way, along with easement interest for 2 drainage easements and 4 temporary construction easements located on 5 properties in Temple, Texas, necessary for the construction of Barnhart Road reconstruction project, those properties being described as follows. Property 1, A, 0.3318 acre right-of-way tract situated in the Maximino Moreno Survey, Abstract 14, Bell County, Texas, embracing a portion of the remainder of a so-called 2-acre tract conveyed to Lisa A. Cathan in document number 2021069-402, official public records of real property, Bell County, Texas, located at 4011 Little River Road. Property 2, a 0.1064 acre temporary construction easement and a 0.0253 acre drainage easement, both situated in the Maximino Moreno Survey, Abstract 14, Bell County, Texas, embracing a portion of a tract of land conveyed to Betty Jo Rohan Moore in volume 4349, page 542, official public records of real property, Bell County, Texas, located at 3820 State Highway 95. Property 3, a 0.1649 acre right-of-way tract at a 0.1438 acre temporary construction easement and a 0.0182 acre drainage easement, all situated in the Maximino Moreno Survey, Abstract 14, Bell County, Texas, embracing a portion of a called 2-acre tract conveyed to Kufal Prater Real Estate Limited in volume 5563, page 4, official public records of real property, Bell County, Texas, located at 2120 Bernhardt Road. Property 4, a 0.3253 acre right-of-way of right-of-way tract and a 0.00239 acre temporary construction easement, both situated in the Maximino Moreno Survey, Abstract 14, Bell County, Texas, embracing a portion of a called 0.984 acre tract conveyed to Robert W. Turner in volume 2389, page 295, official public records of real property, Bell County, Texas, located at 2115 Barnhart Road. And last but not least, property 5, a 0.0944 acre right-of-way tract and a 0.0407 acre temporary construction easement, both situated in the Maximino Moreno Survey, Abstract 14, Bell County, Texas, embracing a portion of a called 1.141 acre tract conveyed to Quentin Andrews in document number 2018-000-31822, official public records of real property, Bell County, Texas, located at 3950 State Highway 95.
I'll second that. You dab your head.
We have a long motion by Councilmember Long. We have a short second by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. Council, please cast your vote. Item 11 passes 5 votes to 0. Thank you, Susan.
Anytime.
Item 12 is to consider adopting a resolution appointing one member to the Killeen Temple Metropolitan Planning Organization. We have, due to some population changes, the city of Temple is now eligible to add a new voting member on the K-Tempo Policy Board. And since Mike is up to speed on those transportation issues, and he sits on the Transit District Board also, we thought it made sense that Mike serve as the third voting member for the city of Temple. And he's already, in my conversations with him, has mentioned that he would be willing to do that. So I would like to nominate Councilmember Pilkington as the third voting member on that board. And I will entertain a motion unless somebody would like to nominate someone else. Jessica?
I would love to second the motion from Mike.
And I'll
move
point out
forward.
that Mike was a great addition yesterday at his first meeting. We appreciate him coming.
Very good. So you make the motion?
I do.
Are you making
I'll
the second?
second the motion.
All right. We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Walker. We have a second by Councilmember Long. Council, please cast your vote. Item 12 passes 5 votes to 0. Thank you, Councilmember Pilkington, for your willingness to serve in that capacity. Thank you all for attending. Those of you that are left, it is currently 8:07, and this meeting of the Temple City Council is adjourned.